And good morning, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting and Work Session for St. Patrick's Day, March 17, 2020. And by way of introduction, I'm the chair of the board, John Hutchings. To my right is
Vice Chair Ty Menser.
Mary Edwards, please.
Robin Colts.
Ramiro Chavez.
La Bonita Beaumont.
Thomasina Cooper.
And in backup,
Caitlin Johnson.
Megan Porter.
and in our audience,
Elizabeth Ashridge, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. Of Health and Social Services.
Kirk Martin.
Public Health and Social Services.
beautiful, thank you. So we're going to go through several things today, a lot of hot topics and such. But we're going to start first with the topic of the Proposition 1 election ballot. We're moving that right to the top. And so this is down in our commissioner items check-in, but it's a special election and the discussion surrounding that. Romero?
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. Thank you for moving this item on top of it. And the reason is depending on how the board would like to move, Elizabeth needs to take a couple of steps depending on the decision. So to frame the issue, proposition number 1, which is is a ballot measure asking the citizens to support a new courthouse, is scheduled to be in front of the voters on the April special election, April 28th special election. Considering the circumstances and the health emergencies that we currently live in, and without knowing how this is going to evolve in the next month or two, you heard yesterday via Skype, Mary Hall, the county auditor, suggesting that perhaps you may consider rescinding this resolution from the auditor's office. And as a result, it will not be in the April 28th special election. A couple of elements on that. We have currently a restriction of 10 individuals or maximum of 10 individuals that can gather in an election. We have a ballot processing center that is extremely busy, as you have seen. And we have many individuals that perhaps are in the high risk category, for the most part as volunteers. And also we have to open a voting center. And the voting center usually is the accommodating and room 152 here in building number 1. And as we have seen, that needs to be open for any citizen who come exercise their right to vote as well as register at the same day. So logistically, it becomes more of a health-related issue from my perspective, and I believe that's what the county auditor was suggesting you may consider, rescinding this ballot proposition for the April 28, 2020 special election. And there's a sense of urgency, because whatever decision you may like to do, one way or the other, has to be done by this Friday, because that's when, from the auditor's perspective, the time start ticking. So that's really the framing of the conversation. Elizabeth is here to answer any next steps. And I just leave it up to you, how you would like to exercise your
Elizabeth, will you come up to the table, please? Thank you. I had a conversation with the auditor, Mary Hall, this morning, and yes, the ballots have to be delivered this Friday in order to be done in time. And even if there was a small turnout, that's still 50 to 60,000 people. And the auditor's worker population is, most of them are senior citizens. And ballot centers must be open and staffed as well. And I even had an elected ask me yesterday, can we just still do the election because it's done by mail and then postpone it? And the answer to that is no. There is no, pardon me?
Postpone the counting.
Postpone the counting, yeah, until like May or June. But the answer is no, because the ballot centers still have to be open on election day, and there is no exemption in the law for that. There's an exemption for the canvassing or certifying the election for emergencies, but not for the election day. And with people currently, as we're sitting here today on March 17th, hopefully in the bottom of the curve of this issue, which I doubt we are. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. People losing their jobs, people concerned with the economy, whether it's in a recession or heading into a depression, and the federal government trying to respond and react to those needs financially. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to continue on with the ballot measure at this point, and then from my perspective, for the foreseeable future. But now we'll open it up for discussion with my seatmates. Commissioner Edwards?
Well, I can only say I've been against it from the original vote a year ago. And if we were gonna have it, I would always prefer that it be on an election day that was the biggest turnout, which would be November or August. So I'm all in favor of removing it.
Well, in August is the next date, but I'm not sure we'll be out of the woods yet, even financially for the people that we're gonna ask for tax money. So right now, as I'm sitting here today, it just kind of sticks in my craw. Commissioner Menzer?
Elizabeth, is there I understood that there was some sort of legal issue going with the ballot title, and if this is removed, does that become moot?
Yes.
If we replace it on the August ballot, does that automatically revive, or they would have to
Yes.
refile?
Because the commissioners will have to take action again to ask the auditor to put it before the voters at whatever election they choose to. So that will be another action and resolution to the auditor with another proposed ballot title, which will be subject to appeal for whoever.
Subject to appeal, but I mean, the actual legal proceeding would have to be reinstituted against the new, because we're not gonna change the title.
So
We
the first
debated
step,
that ad nauseum.
yeah, so
We
the
know that
first
we're on
step,
solid ground, and we're going to keep the same ballot title, but the question I have is, they'd have to refile their lawsuit?
yes.
Okay. So it doesn't do us any good it doesn't do. I was looking for a mechanism by which that could all be resolved well in advance of any potential election. But it sounds like the opponents can still wait till the 11th hour, like they did this time tactically, and try to gum it up at the last minute, whether it's August, November, February, next April, next August.
Anyone has an opportunity to file a ballot title challenge.
And there's a timing, and they should do it up to the moment up to when?
They have to wait till the ballot title's filed, and then after that, they have 10 days to file.
And then does the court have an obligation to hear that within a certain time frame?
According to statute, they shall hear it immediately.
But I was told there had not been any date set for the court to hear this one, so they didn't hear it immediately.
Not yet.
They didn't even set a date immediately.
No, they haven't.
Okay. Well, I think my point of view differs in some respects from my colleagues, but on the core issue, I think there are safety concerns that are serious. I've spoken with the auditor as well. This is a non-essential election, and I'm not gonna put people's safety at risk over the advice of our auditor, so I'm fully supportive of removing it from the April election. What we do from there, I think there's gonna be a healthy debate.
Okay. So removal?
So you need to take a formal action. So I will bring a motion for you to take a formal vote tomorrow morning as part of other agenda items that I have for you. And I want to work with Elizabeth as to what that language will be in terms of this point is a couple of steps. You just rescind the resolution that you sent to the auditor.
I would like that, if legally appropriate, I would like that rescission to have the language in it that this is due to the COVID crisis and not because of a frivolous legal challenge by any
Absolutely.
group of citizens.
Thank you. And I was going to conclude, at least from my point of view, from an administrative point of view, the reason that I'm bringing this to your attention is because of the health emergency that we're facing. And at least from my point of view, is nothing related to the legal challenges it's going through. And this is just purely a suggestion from my point of view related to response of the health emergency. So tomorrow we'll bring an action for you to consider to formally rescind the ordinance from the auditor's office. And then later on in the year, when things will subside, I will bring this matter to you to engage on yet another healthy conversation as to how the board would like to proceed on the ballot.
And thank you for that, for the health of the community, but also the health of the auditor staff, our employees. Yes, sir, Commissioner.
And in the meantime, that'll free up about $170-some thousand that we had budgeted for that, and we might be able to use it towards a solution to some other issue.
Yeah, it's in the budget for that, yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't want to just freeze that. It'd be my,
No, the $170,000 has been assigned to the auditor's budget.
yeah, well, she won't need it now. I'd
Well,
like to revisit that.
So,
$177,000.
well, I don't want to be presumptions as to how the board would like to take an action on this, because you do have the
Well,
option
but-
to be on August or November.
It's a
of this year.
democratic process, and I'm sure we'll have a discussion on it, but we'll see how it all turns out in the vote. But that puts the money back in the coffers, in my estimation, to be able to be used for some other issue.
So, and that was key when you set aside the $170,000 to support this ballot measure, that if the auditor does not use it all or some, everything comes back to the general fund.
Well, I think we need to have a discussion about that as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with that option.
That it comes back?
I agree with it coming back.
Okay, I thought so. Just when?
Yeah.
So the question is when, okay. Anything else for Elizabeth on this topic? Okay. We have you here for another topic, but that'll be later,
Okay, that's fine.
right? Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. Now we move to COVID-19 update. Shelley Slaughter, the Director of Public Health and Social Services, and our EMS Director, Harden.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So I'll start by giving you a situational report over the last 24 hours. Globally, there are 167,515 cases, 13,903 new in the last 24 hours, 6,606 deaths, 862 new in the last 24 hours. In the United States, 3,487 cases, 68 deaths, the majority of those here in Washington State. Washington State, 904 cases, 48 deaths, and 5 in Thurston County. Just to follow up,
Five cases.
5 cases.
Not 5 deaths.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. No. 5 cases. I misread my notes. Thank you for correcting
We
me
have
on
no
that.
deaths?
We have 0 deaths in Thurston County at this time. There were some questions yesterday about global cases, specifically the United Kingdom and Italy was referenced. Washington State's outbreak has been compared somewhat to Italy. As you know, they have imposed the highest level of non-pharmaceutical interventions, and that's the cordon sanitaire. And in Italy, they have had 368 deaths in the last 24 hours. So that is very concerning. The United Kingdom has 1,395 cases and 251 deaths, and I understand that in the last 24 hours, they have significantly changed their strategy to be in line with others around the world, implementing those non-pharmaceutical interventions and social distancing as our best tool that we have here. Yes.
Yeah, and Director Slaughter and I pulled the same numbers independently, as it turns out, but our numbers actually match up. I've done the numbers as well. Our per capita cases is lower than UK's per capita cases. So, when you look at population density, we are actually at a lower per capita positive case across the US than the UK.
Can I just state, the microphone is generally for the people so they can hear people in the back. We have these, So if you don't want to keep touching it, handing it back and forth, you don't need to.
Thank you.
But I've seen her use hand sanitizer all morning, so.
Okay. Just an important safety tip.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. As you know, the governor imposed additional restrictions in the last 24 and 48 hours to restrict gatherings of 50 people or more and to discourage crowds of any size and for vulnerable people and all people to stay home to the extent possible. We at Thurston County Public Health also encourage that. We're particularly concerned about our high-risk populations and protecting them, as well as keeping everyone from getting sick and protecting our very fragile and critically important healthcare system. We are responding to lots of questions regarding those announcements and changes that are happening very rapidly. We continue to coordinate with our state and federal partners on a daily basis. We continue to encourage people to socially distance as much as possible, and we are working on continuity of operations plans. We also today joined together at the ECC, our Emergency Coordination Center. We have our incident command at Public Health that has been in operation since February 6th, has been operating at level 2. We are now at a level 1. Our staff that are on the incident management team are full-time dedicated to this effort. And we are now, our command center is now at the ECC joined together with emergency management. And with that, I will pass it on to Director Harden.
Okay, so a couple of things real quick for updates. First of all, the ECC and the Unified Command that we're doing there with Public Health and Emergency Management is a recognition that we can more streamline and be more effective and efficient. The system we had prior to this was working, but as our op tempo increases and things ramp up, we want to make sure that we're in sync, and also we're avoiding any duplication of effort. Plus, this way, the administrative piece of the activation is assumed by the ECC, so that all public health has to worry about and focus on is the emerging public health crisis. So two other things, PPE. I'm understood that we may get a partial shipment of PPE in the next 2 to 3 days. They're getting, the governor's talked with the president and gotten additional release of the strategic national stockpile to Washington State. The distribution of that is obviously going to be a little more complicated for counties who have been impacted. I will tell you that it will in no way, shape, or means fulfill all the PPE requirements we have in the county. It won't even come close to what just our number one priority right now. What's been identified to us is St. Pete's Hospital, and they are running critically short of PPE this week. One of the things that I am continuously concerned about, and I will tell and ask, and this is a request I'm making to the board, we have been speaking for over a week now to the Department of Health requesting that they put out to suspend non-urgent medical procedures. As of this morning, they have still not done that. They have still not taken that action. And I will tell you, just a list that we discussed this morning, and Director Slaughter and I are in agreement on this: hospitals, urgent care, dentists, outpatient clinics, vets. Cosmetology was an issue until I was reminded by Director Slaughter that they were shut down yesterday because of the governor's actions. But there's a whole multitude of other operations out there that are using PPE that may not be necessary. And so we're asking you to call the governor's office and reach out to them and say, we need this message across Washington state, because counties that are not impacted yet will be impacted. But as we continue to burn PPE, and the number I was given by a hospital was up to 30% of their PPE is used in non-urgent medical procedures. So that's one request that we both have, because the more we stretch out and conserve our PPE across the state, not just Thurston County. I think Thurston County more than likely is doing a good job, but we don't know because the directive has not come out from the State Department of Health. So that is a critical concern. I am hearing that first responders in Snohomish County, as an example, are responding to calls without PPE on a prioritized basis. I do not want that situation to come to Thurston County.
You said cosmetology. Does that include getting a haircut?
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes.
But I can tell you that when I was in the Army, I was trained how to do haircuts. If you need one, I can give you a really good.
The only saving
It may
grace,
look like Commissioner Edwards, but
if you want to get your haircut, the only saving grace is I can't go out in public. Okay, any questions or comments for our experts here?
No, sir.
Shelley, what do you know or can tell us about maybe this overlaps Keely, but I saw something about a COVID-19 housing grant.
Yes, we received $1 million grant fund yesterday from the state to help support the homeless population in terms of our COVID response. And Keely will provide some further update on that. Right now, we are working to develop a plan, a local plan and strategies, also trying to coordinate with the state on the larger statewide plan to prevent COVID spread in that population and make sure that they have shelter and quarantine isolation facilities identified.
And I have an item for you tomorrow morning to authorize the grant and also authorize Shelley to sign that agreement.
Do we have a plan for how we're gonna figure out how that gets spent?
We're working to develop that now. Keely will talk more. One thing that we know, a couple things that we do know immediately is that this Center for Disease Control and Department of Health and Thurston County Public Health and Social Services has recommendations and guidance for local homeless shelters, and many of our homeless shelter providers do not have the ability or the space or the capacity to meet those. So some of that is will be spent on finding alternative sheltering options and facilities that can accommodate those requirements so we can protect that population, which is highly vulnerable. So that will be priority number one. And then secondly, we'll be exploring various other strategies. And there's a whole list of possibilities, and Keely may be able to go into that more today.
Yeah.
On that piece?
Okay.
Are we?
I have another issue to bring up with that one. We are looking to discuss later on in this meeting, the BoCC meeting cancellations. And so we have consistently said we'd like to have the best legal advice before deciding an issue, the best evidence, the best research, and what are other jurisdictions doing related to whatever issue we're considering. We're looking at the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control, Washington State Department of Health, our own our EMS, Emergency Management, Public Health and Social Services, advice from Dr. Yu, and even within that list of experts, here 50 people or more shouldn't gather. And I'm hearing from the CDC, 10 people or more. And as I said yesterday, I'm courageous enough to look like I'm overreacting. So we're coming into the discussion in a couple hours regarding canceling BoCC meetings and or closing to the public, even though there's other ways for them to address the board. What is your advice or suggestions or recommendations on that topic?
Strongly urge you to take that action and to reduce the number of people coming to any meeting of any size as much as possible. We have to take this very seriously. We are trying to have a significant intervention to slow that curve of growth in COVID-19 cases that we are seeing here. It's a very serious situation. We are also the county seat of state government. We have a very important responsibility, not only to all of our residents in Thurston Thurston County and our region and our state, but we also have really critical government that we need to make sure that we preserve. And the best way to do that is for us to take extreme measures to protect every single person here and have as many people be at home and socially distance as possible. And I expect that we will continue to see further restrictions and more social distance requirements being implemented in the coming week as we try to slow this down.
See, and the best tool, we heard this yesterday, the best tool we have is to reduce people-to-people contact.
Yes.
And you expect it to worsen or become more constrictive
Yes.
or restrictive?
Yes, I think that we need, the board should consider, the Board of Health should consider
Just
taking
here it is.
as strict of measures as possible to protect Thurston County and everyone else as
Kurt?
soon as possible.
Okay, Kurt?
So I realize this is a really challenging and difficult decision the board has to consider. Because there is that the public's right to know and balanced with public health and public safety. So I don't take recommendations like this lightly. But I also know that from what I've heard, the public has the ability to communicate still with the board. They have the ability to actually get more than 3 minutes. If you take a 10-page letter and you submit and send it to the board still got to read it and consider it part of that letter. And so,
And we do.
And so there's still that ability for people to provide that input and provide their voice to be heard, and at the same time to see the board's actions through television, through what's televised, etc. So I would recommend and concur with Director Slaughter that we have to reduce the ability of the numbers of people that come together. I would say that I would recommend that as well, at least for the interim of the 30 days or whatever you're considering, because we can always reassess. And if the situation changes and things start going back to normal, you can still change your decision and reschedule those board meetings. But I can tell you, if we err on the side of caution, we can recover from that. If we err and don't err on the side of caution, err on the other side, we can't recover from that. And so that's my biggest concern is, we both have talked about this. We need to do what's prudent for public health and response. And I make that recommendation to you, but you have other issues to consider as well and other concerns, but that's my recommendation.
Prevention. And I was thinking this morning, if we are getting the CDC's recommendation towards 10, just put on the BoCC meeting, we have 6, a minimum of 6 that need to be here. So we're gonna have 4 or 5 people to come in is all. And I just don't see the logic in that. Did you have something, Commissioner? Go ahead.
What's the gathering restriction that the governor has put out for, I think, for the next 2 weeks?
It's 50.
For the next 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that also closing restaurants and bars for the next 2 weeks?
Yes. Restaurants, bars that
And
have
hair salons.
in-dining service as well as recreational facilities, and there's a wide range of different services and retail outlets that are included in that. So things like movie theaters, hair salons, youth sports, gyms, all of those type of recreational facilities are closed right now.
This question would be for the county manager again. As far as you know, though, are we planning on meeting on a weekly basis?
I think it will depend on the plans all the elected offices and departments will be submitting to me tomorrow on a potential non-essential functions shutdown. And that is probably some of the progression that some of the jurisdictions have implemented already. I received Whatcom County is taking those actions. Some of the local cities are taking those actions, Lacey and Olympia.
Tell me about Lacey. What did they do?
They're closed their buildings to
For a
public
month?
access.
They're not having council meetings?
The council meeting is still on, but they're gonna see how that goes, I believe, on Thursday.
I guess my preference would be that we review this weekly and make a decision weekly to see what the need is, and that way we can still be in line with following what the governor is recommending. And I can only assume that he is getting information from his health people as well. So when it comes down to that, it almost looks like we've jumped in our agenda to that point now because our people are here.
I knew you would be back, so I just wanted to
Yeah.
get your input before we got to that.
So, I'm not against the cancellation for health reasons if needed, as long as it follows what is going on from the governor's staff as much as anything else. I want it to be consistent with that. So I'm not gonna be in favor of putting a blanket that we're gonna close for 4 weeks, whatever we talked about. I'm good going week by week and assessing it.
Do you have any questions or comments? We're going to discuss this issue in our commissioners' items later on. I just wanted to be sure I got your input. We can hear your input up front. Anything from you, Commissioner?
My comment is we're spending entirely too much time discussing this issue. We have businesses that are gonna shut down, we have homeless camps that are gonna have, we have so many issues, and we have literally burned 90 minutes or 2 hours in the last 2 days talking about this meeting, which is gonna affect maybe 4 or 5 people that are here or not here. So we need to get past this issue and get past it quickly. Follow the advice, take it week by week or don't take it week by week. But it's burning too much time. That's my opinion. No questions for these two. I do have another COVID related question,
Okay.
since we're on that topic.
This is
I guess
here.
it's for the county manager, it's not for the,
Okay.
my question is, I understand that there's folks working on assistance for small businesses. In Economic Development Council is involved. Do we, as Thurston County, have a point person that's coordinating or working with EDC or whichever of the other jurisdictions that are, can you give us an update on kind of that?
Yeah,
Later in the agenda too.
Is it? I didn't see that.
It's no, it's in the commissioner item. I'm going to bring up having that point person.
Okay, well, we can delay the discussion. I just wanted.
yeah, either way, but whether you like to give up or.
I just wanted to know in terms of this week, like given I know there's some efforts going on, do we have somebody involved?
Yes,
Now.
the county does have Jenica Machado.
Okay.
She is the economic development manager, and she has already been coordinated with some of the EDC and some of the economic development managers from the cities. So that interaction is going on already. And in fact, I just got an update email from her yesterday of some of those efforts. When we get to the point later in the agenda, I could probably share some of the key elements of that email.
And this is, what I'm going to bring up is the overarching person that will coordinate with all the cities on the EDC and track all this and coordinate everything.
Yep.
I think that's where you're going.
Well, I talked to Cheryl about that idea, but if I want somebody like today, it might take us 2 weeks to get that in place or however long, and I want someone right now, whether it's Jenica or whoever else, Josh or whoever, I don't know who that person is, Jenica probably. Just want to make sure that we're involved in the discussions, because I know things are happening.
Yeah.
I see the chatter about it, and I want to
Yeah,
make sure that
we are, and I can probably give you,
I just wanted to confirm that, that's all.
I can add a little bit to that, because I won't be here later for the discussion. But Jenica is also integrated into our ECC, so as an example, we have SBA, economic injury, disaster loan applications coming in. We're making sure she gets to see those. We've linked her up to the ECC with Pierce, King, Snohomish, Seattle, economic development points of contact, so they can have a regional approach to this as well. So, and then there's going to be a governor's task force working on this, and they're going to be part of that. So through the ECC, we're also linking her up with these points of contact.
And I have been working with Jenica also and with some of the business community, and now I'm happy that Jenica is gonna be able to dedicate more time to that so that I can stay focused on our public health response.
And she started January 1st. That's funny.
Maybe just to follow up on Commissioner Mentzer's concern on the economic development, the interest rates being lowered. And I foresee the possibility of some type of building boom happening with home construction because of that. And I would very much like to see us as a body to explore what authority we have to reduce the regulatory burden that these builders face oftentimes to get them into the queue, if you will, sooner to, so they can move on with their projects. And I don't know what form that will take, but I suppose it'll take some type of legal advice of something. But what I'm referring to is the bureaucracy that often holds up activities for months and months at a time. And I think we should do everything we can to help those individuals that are going to be employing people.
And I agree with that. We've had that conversation about incentivizing building across the board. Okay. Anything further?
No.
Shelley, thank you very much. Peter Merida, homeless strategies, the $1 million employee.
All right. Good morning.
Morning.
Keely Merida, Thurston County Homeless Prevention and Affordable Housing Coordinator. Have lots to tell you today. We have been working really closely with our homeless crisis response system providers in preparation for all the changes that are coming down the pike and in response to COVID-19 concerns. The Hazardous Weather Task Force, which is a conglomerate of providers, folks from jurisdictions, we have emergency service folks that come to those at times, outreach workers. It's held at the city of Olympia. We met on Friday at 2:30 to 4 to get some updates on how shelters are currently operating, what their concerns are, got recommendations from that group, as well as talked about mitigating the unintentional spread of COVID-19 within the shelters. We discussed DOH, Department of Health's recommendations for shelters, CDC's recommendations for shelters, as well as recommendations coming out of King County. I have to say, I am so impressed with folks that are working with the homeless community right now. There's a lot of pressure on them to continue offering services with facing really difficult decisions, such as turning people away at shelters due to the 6 feet social distancing guideline. As you know, I'm sure the community care center's day room is temporarily closed. They have upwards of 200 individuals accessing that on a daily basis to take showers, to use the restroom, to wash their hands, to get some rest, to get some coffee, and then to get connected with services, mental health, behavioral health, and physical medical health. So those services are still being offered to individuals, but on an appointment basis. A lot of the efforts that we've increased are around outreach. So as you know, you probably noticed in the middle of all this, we did have a little bit of snow and some freezing temperatures. And so normally we would have called a hazardous weather event, but in lieu of COVID-19, we just responded as if we're a hazardous weather event, and outreach efforts significantly increased to ensure that we are getting survival gear out to those that cannot come into shelters, so out into the encampments. Partners in prevention education mobilized quite an extensive effort, made over 100 contacts, and I have not gotten their full extent of what they were able to give to individuals that were in encampments over the weekend, but they did a significant amount of work. The Interfaith Works, because the day room has shut down temporarily, has, as of today, moved their Interfaith Works emergency overnight shelter at First Christian to a 24/7 operation. So Meg Martin has diverted her staff to provide 24-hour support at First Christian. They are wrestling with the 6 feet of social distancing, as the Interfaith Work Shelter prioritizes those with the highest vulnerability through the coordinated entry system. So we're talking the most in need of services, and they will lose 17 of those 42 beds with the social distancing rule. So they're working on how to mitigate that. Union Gospel Mission has also decreased their bed numbers. They had 66 people on Saturday night. St. Michael's Church has agreed to extend their number of people they could take in from 14 to upwards of 30. So Stefan from Union Gospel Mission has been working closely with Kim Condrat who's organizing the shelter for St. Mike's to come pick up extra individuals from Union Gospel Mission each night so they can keep that 6 foot distancing going. He's also working on strategies to ensure that his meal programs are meeting that guideline of 6 feet. Likewise, Salvation Army's community kitchen is distributing meals, sack lunches at the door. Their dining room is closed. They're doing that for both lunch and dinner. I'm working with Community Youth Services, Young Adult Shelter to see how they're accommodating for fewer numbers of folks being able to be in their facility at night. I haven't had a full-on update from them around how many beds will be affected by the 6 feet rule. Because they currently can go up to 35 individuals, and I'm sure that that number is decreased with the social distancing rule. So lots of work. I've been working really closely with every one of the providers, strategizing on how to support this group of individuals, working very closely with the city of Olympia, finding ways to help with mitigation site, getting their a high number of individuals that are living in the mitigation site that are already very medically fragile. So we're working together to ensure that we can get them someplace now before it becomes an issue. All of the shelters have been given protocols for screening. So shelters are screening for symptoms of COVID-19 and then coming up with strategies to, if a person is exhibiting symptoms, then what to do at that point. So far, there hasn't been any reporting of anyone in the homeless community having had any symptoms. So we understand that that's going to change, but for the current time, there has been no cases of people exhibiting symptoms. Yes, Department of Commerce, a week and a half ago, gave us directions to come up with increased shelter plans just generally with extra money from the budget at the state level. And by Monday morning, we got, what day is it? Is it Tuesday?
Deadline was last.
Right, that would be yesterday. So yesterday, we got an email midday at noon from Department of Commerce. You're getting a grant of $1 million. On Friday of last week, however, they had given us a list of questions to address. How many beds do you currently have? How many staff does it take? If you do the 6 feet distancing rule, how many beds will you lose? If you're operating 24/7, what does that look like for staffing? How will your janitorial increase? How will your utilities increase? How will you recruit for staffing? So we've been doing all of that information gathering with our providers, and we're still operating from what information they're giving us through that initial questionnaire on Friday. We did the $1 million grant coming from Commerce requires a plan. The plan has to show and demonstrate partnership with the largest city in the county. So we got that down. I'm working very closely with the city of Olympia on a daily basis. So we're coordinating dreamily. It's dreamy. And I drafted a plan. So right now, Tom is working on putting it into an Excel spreadsheet to enumerate some of the strategies within the plan, but we do have a pretty thorough plan. I was in conversation over the weekend with Daniel Malone, from a colleague in Seattle who runs the DESC. I don't remember what DESC stands for. My apologies, but it's one of the biggest shelters and permanent supportive housing efforts up in Seattle. And a lot of the work that we've been brainstorming and coming up with for this response is in line with what they're doing up in King. I think a lot of people who have been working in homeless services for a while, we know what to do, to a certain degree. We both know what to do and are completely flabbergasted like everybody else. So I do have the draft of the plan up if you have specific questions about that.
I do. Bueno.
I just had a quick question about, so if you were saying about trying to figure out if there's a homeless person in a shelter, a camp that shows the symptoms, what do we do? And I know there was discussion of the fairgrounds or something. And I mean, what are we gonna do in that instance?
Well, what we've come up with, initially when we were talking about screening, if people showed symptoms, then service providers, so Interfaith Works they have a van, so would provide transport to one of the testing sites. But as things have progressed, there's a lot of concern about how to transport individuals with if healthcare providers don't have adequate PPE. Certainly outreach workers and shelter workers do not have access to PPE. So they're working on how do we transport. That's one of the biggest questions that we're kind of wrestling with. We did come up with some ideas around what if we use Thurston County Fairgrounds for a quarantine site or isolation site. We kicked around Martin Way, we've already done a lot of the groundwork there in terms of infrastructure and what do we need and a budget and staffing, all of that for there. We also reached out to, and this is an idea from Director Slaughter, to certain summer camps here in Thurston County that have commercial grade kitchens, cabins with bathrooms, they already have beds. And the few that we've talked to have been really positive, that all of their events have canceled. And so they're more than happy to accommodate individuals. One of the camps has 250 beds. And I don't know how many beds per cabin, but each cabin has its own bathroom. It has a commercial grade kitchen. It's also got a lot of open air. So individuals, can access lovely scenery and get some air if that's something that they can do. The question is staffing it. The question is, can we get staff to staff these sites? What is that? Who are those staff? Are they outreach workers? Are they shelter providers? Are they the National Guard? We don't know who's going to be staffing them. We have come up with some pretty creative ways to address some of the needs of individuals who probably have lost their jobs or been laid off in the last 24 hours. There are a lot of people in the retail industry and service industry that need work. Is this an opportunity for providers with our $1 million grant to do hire folks that yesterday were servers at a restaurant? We also have been kicking around, how do we utilize restaurants to feed individuals in encampments? Do we find a way to support restaurants by paying them to create meals that can be distributed to quarantine sites or to individuals in encampments? So we're getting really creative with how we address this issue.
Does one of those campsites include Camp Solomon Schechter?
Yes,
It does, okay, that's off, no, done.
that's the one that was like, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Came to my attention, I wanted to bring it up to you and Shelley, thank you. Any more? Go ahead, Gary.
You mentioned that we were gonna get some resources in, and the one thing I didn't hear from you is, are we trying to come up with some drug treatment for some? You mentioned mental health and overall health, but are you including drug treatment in the availability for that? You said something about we needed to make an appointment for the mental health side of it. And maybe you have to do that with the drug as well, but is that also just, you just failed to mention it.
Yes, I'm very glad that you mentioned that. We're working closely with the Olympia Buprenorphine Clinic.
Okay.
And so they've come up with an excellent strategy for rotating staff to ensure that their clinic can stay open. They were present at the Hazardous Weather Task Force and made some recommendations on ways to best serve individuals who are receiving medical assisted treatment through the buprenorphine clinic, or who are heavy users that would, if they're in isolation, there's a significant risk in death if they're not receiving treatment or what have you. So we are working really closely with those providers.
And in my estimation, that's a big piece of this whole homeless issue. And so would we be able to utilize some of that money you're talking about from Commerce, maybe to help those folks out, to make them whole, or get them to where they can provide a better mental health and drug treatment process?
I think ultimately that's the goal of the $1 million, is to ensure that individuals experiencing homelessness stay alive and don't spread the disease. So however that, we haven't figured out the minutia of how that money gets spent, but that's the ultimate overarching.
So Keely, my question is, when Department of Commerce came out with the, we have money for the city, or the counties that are working with the cities for emergency shelter beds. Now, I'm sure DOC, when they received your plan, said, oh, good grief, Thurston County's on this, we better get the checkbook, give it, because within a couple of days, we're awarded the $1 million. So my question is, the shelter beds, how long do we need to maintain those according to the ramifications or requirements of DOC? Is it like something that has to be permanently in place? Because that takes out the summer camps. And if St. Mike's, they're increasing their shelter beds, how temporary is that? I don't know. But what is the requirement to maintain the shelter beds for how long?
I'm going to say that what I've read is, and what we're budgeting for and thinking about is for a person who's entered isolation and quarantine, 2 weeks. That's
Okay.
right now what I understand.
Okay.
But that, that's can be staggered, so I don't know.
But I think it will depend on the number of individuals.
Yes.
Right.
An individual can be in quarantine, but then another group may be in need of that as well.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Anything further?
No, sir.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on being awarded the grant.
Thank you.
I'm sure we just had it.
Yes.
All right, that takes us to the review of our BoCC draft agenda for March 17th, which has been canceled, but we're going to go through the agenda anyway?
No.
No, we're not. So we're going to go through the draft agenda for, the TBD, that's been canceled as well for today. We'll go into the draft agenda for Tuesday, March 24th, 2020.
Yeah, and that will depend on your decision later on as to how you want to manage future meetings. But I'd like to go through the items. They're currently on the 24th agenda.
So we'll convene the meeting allegedly at 2 o'clock. Pledge of allegiance led by Vice Chair Ty Menser. Approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes. And then an opportunity for the public to address the board. And if we do have it, there may be people addressing the board, or we may have the meeting and not allow anybody in. We don't know yet. Do you have anything regarding the public comment that you're aware of?
No, sir.
Okay. The county manager's update, anything to follow up on, sir?
Nothing at this point.
Consent items A and B. A being the Public Works Solid Waste Advisory Committee appointment.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, this is an appointment of Mr. James Blair as the City of Yelm representative to the Thurston County Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And this is for a 3-year term, starting March 1st, 2020, and will go to March 1st, 2023. As you may remember, the SWAC committee is formed by many representatives, either from the business industry as well as representatives from the different jurisdictions. In this case, the mayor of Yelm, Mr. J.W. Foster, has recommended Mr. James Blair, who is a city council member from Yelm, to be representative for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
Okay. Questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay. That was good, then across the board, Romero. And B is the voucher list. So department items, Public Works is number 4 on the agenda. Call for sealed bids for asphalt materials for road maintenance.
Yeah, this is a yearly request. The Public Works asked the board to authorize going to call for sealed bids. And this is a little bit different than a normal seal bid process. What we do with this process is securing prices per unit prices. For instance, how much it will cost a cubic yard or gravel, a cubic yard of asphalt, or tons of asphalt. So it's all the materials the Department of Public Works uses during the summertime. And at this point, what we do is we secure the prices at this point, and then we'll use those prices as we move along and conducting the business. So that is why at this point I don't have a number as to how much that is depending on the frequency and the amount of need the department has on a yearly basis. But at least we locked in the unit prices for the materials.
Okay, great.
The price of asphalt depends a lot on the price of oil. And the price of oil is kind of coming down, and it looks like it's going to continue to come down. Is there any benefit that we would receive about getting this authorization done a little early? So if the price of oil goes down, we can get a reasonable bid?
So the price of asphalt and this request is very small, because you will see another request to go out to bid for normal paving and normal chip seal. So that is not, this is just for the daily operations that they need, is those small amounts that will move along. I strongly recommend not to delay this item, because it's going to put us in a different position. You may save on oil prices, but you may get additional prices on other materials.
Okay, along with that thought, if you will, about not delaying, but also for chip seal and stuff. Don't you think we ought to get that thing going as well? If that price is based on the price of oil,
Yeah, it's coming.
let's take advantage
Yeah,
of that.
the department's preparing the AIS for you.
And then I guess my next question is, why wait until, whenever this, 24th or something? Yeah, 24th. I mean, why not put it on our agenda for tomorrow and do it?
Might get a better price next week.
Well, no, I'm just saying, because when that price comes up, if
So,
time is of the essence.
so the answer to your question is within your purview.
Yeah, okay, so, but I'd follow your recommendation on that if it was up to me.
Commissioner?
Can it be prepared by tomorrow?
We can move any items. So that put us in the position of having a conversation whether you're going to be canceling future council meetings. And we're not stopping you taking an action on key elements like this, because I will make sure that we'll bring items as needed for you to take action.
I don't have any expertise in asphalt pricing, so I'm gonna have to defer to the recommendation of the county manager.
Yeah.
Same as me. I'm okay
Me too.
with it, so I'm fine. I'm fine with that,
Okay.
as long as it's advantageous to us. Okay. you
And
got-
this is just beyond asphalt. Mainly is gravel, materials, painting, all that is part of this bit.
All right, agenda item number 5, CPED, code amendment for critical area determination.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, to consider setting a public hearing for Tuesday, April 28th, and that is, I'd like to ask big question mark. Okay. But let me explain the item, and then you can probably have a much better understanding. This is for you to consider changing to the critical area determination. In the critical area determination, when a permit is processed, that determination, whatever that is, whether it's mitigation or not, only lasts for a year. So it's creating a big issue because all the other permits, such as the land use, even the pocket go for review, is for 3 years. So what this particular proposal, what it does is aligns all that to be consistent in a 3-year period. So, and that is really the gist, is for you to consider the critical area determination to move it from 1 year to last 3-year period. So it provides a little more flexibility to the applicants, aligns this item to the rest of the permits that we process, which all of those have a 3-year. You also ask what other jurisdictions, that seems to be an interest of the commission. The Lewis County, Clark County, and Pierce County have this particular permit that lasts for 3 years. So staff is making an attempt not just to align on all the different permits that we have, but also give the applicants more flexibility as opposed to just having to redo in a year. They will have 3 years that this permit will last for. And Brett is here if you have any questions, if I missed anything.
Any questions?
Well, I understand the substance. My question is it something time sensitive that would make us want to have a public hearing in the middle of a pandemic?
And that is the big question mark that I wanted to have. I don't want to speak for staff, but at least from my point of view, I don't think it is an urgency to have on April 28th, maybe delaying it, but.
The only time since, Brett Burris, Planning and Building Manager with Community Planning and Economic Development. The only urgency would be that we're trying to align it with the gopher season to allow people to have specific gopher-type applications instead of the whole development application. But again, I am not stressing that a public hearing should be held.
Any questions, comments?
No, I'm fine with Commissioner Mentzer's question.
So that, and this, it's less restrictive, it makes more sense for the public to have that 3-year rather than 1.
It does. It aligns with the typical standards of acceptability of reports. For example, a wetland report is valid for up to 3 years as long as there's no geological event that changes it. So we can hold and review, and people don't have to get a new wetland report every year if a project delays. In addition to that, it is consistent with the other jurisdictions, as County Manager had mentioned. And as of right now, if a citizen wanted to submit for a gopher review of their property, they would actually have to submit a critical area review permit, which is an actual development application. And we would ask them for a site plan, a building location, a septic location. And that's great if they are moving in that direction, but if they just wanted a gopher screening, we are actually asking them to submit a development application instead of giving them what they're asking for, which is just a gopher review. So it also helps in the feasibility and the transactions of property as people purchase and sell property as well.
So we're taking that pipe and unclogging it yet again to deliver services with the pipe to the people, and less hoops for them to have to jump through more often.
Yes, sir. In addition to that, it also allows for a bit of a financial reprieve from application fees. $398 or so for a critical area review permit, or an RCARP is what we call it. And then a gopher screening fee on top of that. If we go straight to the critical area determination, we can honestly save about $400 for the citizen.
Nice. Good, okay. Yes,
And a question for you maybe, recommendation perhaps to move this a month for May? Will that work?
No problems with that. Even if we get into gopher season and we hold the hearing, we can easily adapt and switch straight to that for that few weeks.
Okay.
I will accommodate anything as it relates to the current.
If we go into May, then it will give us an opportunity to adjust if the situation changes or
Okay.
worsen.
How about the process of receiving input from the public? Could we, there's like a 20-day process or something, could we open that up now so that we've got that in the queue, if you will? And then as soon as this thing eases up a little bit, be able to move forward with the public hearing? I take it it's mandatory that we have a public hearing on this issue.
Yeah, and the requirements is minimum 20 days, but certainly we can expand that and send that as a public notice for May meeting, if we can start receiving comments as soon as possible. Is that what you?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It might just expedite it when we finally get over the hump here, if you will, on this health issue.
So you can give me a new date in May.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, that sounds good.
Good. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Takes us to Emergency Services Active Shooter Incident Management Basic Train the Trainer.
Yes, this, for your consideration, Commissioners, is to approve this resolution authorizing the Director of Emergency Services to get into a contract with C3 Pathways, and this is to have train the trainer on an active shooter incident. The department has gone through the process. This is funded by the Homeland Security Grant. The state Homeland Security Grant is already included in the budget. They have gone through the process of securing some bids, and this has been probably the most suitable outfit who can provide this particular training. So, and again, this will be a 2-day trainer, and it will be up to 5 instructors. It will not be a one-on-one, and it will be a train the trainer. It will include 8-hour delivery of the first day, and then for the 5 candidates, that perhaps they can also train another 20 first responders. Anything else? Yeah, and as I stated, they received three bids, and they perceive to be the C3 Pathway the best possible outfit to provide this training. And the cost is $14,996, and again, that's included in the 2020 budget, and it is funded by a grant of a state Homeland Security grant.
Remember, it says Thurston County Law Enforcement. Is that Thurston County Sheriff's Office, or is that Thurston County Law Enforcement?
All first responders, including
All.
firefighters
Got it.
and police and sheriff's office.
Questions, comments?
My question is, what's the delay, or again, why can't we just do that if it needs to be done so we're ready to roll? I mean, instead of, we don't even know if we're gonna meet on the 24th.
So if you made a decision as a board not to meet on the 24th, I'll make sure to bring those items in a timely manner for your consideration.
Too soon to bring it tomorrow?
If you like,
I'm just wondering.
yeah.
I want to be sure they get this.
You already have a long agenda tomorrow.
Oh, do we? Okay. Okay, that's it? All right, item number 7. Telecommunication franchise for sale.
Yeah, Commissioners, on March 3rd, you held a public hearing on an application for a franchise utility from Zayo Group, and that was held again on March 3rd at 3 in the afternoon. You received no public comment, no written testimony, so this is a follow-up item for you to approve a resolution to grant the application to Zayo Group for a non-exclusive franchise to conduct and operate and maintain telecommunication infrastructure in the counties right away.
Okay. Anything? Anything on that one?
No, I do have a question. We continue to have issues that apparently we need to vote on to authorize, and yet we're talking about not having meetings. I don't see how those two come together. Why don't we just lump them in and do it if we need to do it?
So, yeah, I know you got into my suggestion to suspend it is more about the public health related issues. The public doesn't come and gather. I'm not suggesting for you to stop conducting the business of the county. So every single item that you have in here, I will make sure that we'll bring it to your attention so there is no delays on your decision-making process.
Okay,
Yeah, we're not delaying it.
that's all, that's what I was wondering about, was if we're delaying.
No. And that takes care of the agenda. So now we're moving into proclamations. And the first one I have, the only one I have is National Service Recognition Day for April the 7th, which again is a big giant question mark for National Service Recognition Day. We have someone that's going to be coming to accept that.
We do. Labanita Beaumont for report. Sarah McWilliams from United Way will be accepting the proclamation, depending if we have a meeting. And the proclamation that you have before you is just for you to review, and I will, if you're okay with it, I will make an original, send it around for your signature.
Okay. And that is what, 2 weeks?
Yes.
2 weeks away.
There's big items being canceled, ball games, and such. I mean, can't we do some of these things that might be in question? Make the proclamation and just send them a letter. Say, thank you, we've got unique situations, what we're dealing with.
Actually, I received a phone call from Ms. McWilliams asking if we were going to have a board meeting due to COVID-19, and I told her, of course, I would have to get back to her depending on what the board and county manager informs me. So they are, I believe, more than willing to just receive the original proclamation. We make that decision.
I'm thinking even if we had a board meeting, we don't need to have her here.
Yes.
Send a letter. Thank you. Let's minimize human contact. You have anything on the proclamation? Okay. Thank you. Now moving on to advisory boards and commissions.
The first item is reappointment of Joe Hanna. He's a farmer member on the Agriculture Advisory Board. He would like to be reappointed.
He's been on the board for several years.
Yes, he has. I didn't write it down, but yes, he has.
Okay, and the board's support side, I understand.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on Joe Hanna?
No, I don't know why we can't appoint him now.
All right, we're giving thumbs up, I think, now.
Okay.
Thumbs up?
Okay, got it.
That's done. Pac Mountain is applications.
Pacific Mountain, included in your packet is an application from Angela White. And you will see, her application from Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council. There was also an email sent to our county manager regarding her appointment. This is the first time that you're reviewing this.
And I know Angela. And I support that application, but defer to my seatmates as well.
I'm with you. There's a letter in here and you might haven't reviewed it.
Right.
So I would just take a little bit of time to go through that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll look at,
And the next,
would be, I'm just thinking when we'll look at this again. All these would be next week, not tomorrow, or it should be next week.
Maybe it's next Tuesday.
possibly next.
Okay then, thank you.
The solid waste item we have reviewed already for the 24th. The Area Agency on Aging, this is a new application, and the staff to that council, received the application just today, So I have it in your packet for review. I have not heard back as of yet to their opinion on the application.
Is that one open spot? It doesn't say anything about vacancies here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I put it on at last minute. There are actually two vacancies. One is we need an elected official, and one is a member at large position. And Angela would be filling if accepted, the member at large.
Well, just based on her background and a member of senior service for South Sound and recommendation of Eileen Mackenzie Sullivan, I think that's a pretty stellar resume.
David Schaefer and Michael Kay, both.
That was a different person. actually.
Okay.
That's Pac Mountain, we're on to
Now you're.
Angela Hawk.
The very next
Okay.
page.
And the fact that she,
What's Angela? There's two Angelas.
Hawk,
Oh, that's what, okay, got it.
senior services and concern for animals, feline care. That does it. But yeah, it's not like very qualified.
Is there any chance that, well, the Pac Mountain thing, I was thinking we'd get it all done, so we got it done with it. I'm content.
Okay, so Angela, I'm okay with Angela Hawk for Area Agency on Aging.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
And titles.
good, have that one done. Historic Commission,
Historic Commission, we have one vacancy for District 1 and one vacancy for District 2. Elaine Taylor is in Commissioner District 1, and the commission recommends her appointment. They have reviewed her application and recommends her appointment.
it says the, okay, yeah, never mind, I understand now. Just for District 2,
I looked her,
the app says 2, but
yes, and I looked her up on Geodata, and she is, I'm gonna check with her, but I showed her as District 1.
that's District 1, okay.
Yes.
We haven't had to.
I can see the
First time.
Other than she thought she was.
We need one for both.
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, just gets sorted out with the district.
Yes, I do.
So related to appointments, that is specifically related to County Commissioner District, I will have an agenda in your next planning session, which is scheduled for April 24th, to have a conversation in terms of because right now is, you exercise your vote, the District 1, and you vote democratically. I'd like to engage the board whether that approach we would like to change, what way we'll have a representation from your own district, and how that your prerogative can be exercised a little bit different. I'm not suggesting anything. I think will be good for you to have that conversation among yourselves, because this has been a past practice, has worked, but that doesn't mean that you may want to change how a specific representative from your specific districts or in a specific committee
I get that, yeah.
may be something different.
Okay. So it may not change, but it's a good discussion to have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Storm and surface water. We
Are we
have,
all good on, I just want to catch up, caught up, we approved Lane Taylor. Okay.
yes. And we have Brett Netherwood. He's under Commissioner District 3. He will, they will be meeting, March the 19th.
Will we?
Well, no, that's right,
We did
excuse
something
me.
the other day that it said.
That's right, we just did it yesterday, so they will not be meeting.
Those-
Mr. Netherwood and Carla were invited, so I'll finish my sentence, to this meeting. They are not gonna be meeting, so we'll talk with the county manager is how you want me to.
Well, the appointments are delayed until,
Until further notice, okay. And that would be the same with Fran Baird. Their meeting, they had invited her to a meeting for the Veterans Advisory Board. They were going to be meeting April 20th, and that's no longer.
Brittany, I know the name, I can't figure out why.
Brittany.
The April 20th meeting might be on because that fell outside the 30 days.
the Veterans Advisory Board, yeah, that one could, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I wonder if he was a teacher in Olympia School District.
So are we, is this one where we usually get the board, like they attend a meeting, is that what you're saying?
Staff has been, I send the applications to staff, that you can see. Staff, of recent, has been inviting a potential member to their upcoming meeting. Is it the norm? No. This has been going on now for the last month and a half.
Yeah.
Where I noticed that staff, that when I send them, they would like for them to come to the meeting, they can meet the current members, they can get a general idea of how the meeting and what the topics are.
So the suggestion is to hold on this one?
Yeah, well, this one is not, Fran Beard and the Storm and Surface Water, we won't be having meetings for the boards and commissions because that was gonna be March 19. Fran Baird's, the next Veterans Advisory Board meeting is gonna be April 20th. So that would be outside the 30 days, but again, we have to.
Commissioner Messer, to address your question, the only one that I know that is prescribed is the Stormwater, the SWAB committee, which in the bylaws, the commissioners approved that any new member needs to be vetted by the committee.
That's a piece of information I needed to know.
Yeah, that's the only one. The other ones, I think, is more of a practice. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a practice I might mention that just kind of developed because we did run into some issues on just making appointments without
Consulting the.
consulting the particular board we were appointing to it. And that came back to bite us a couple of times.
And yeah, the SWAB is the one who's prescribed.
Don't forget that kind of stuff.
Okay, got it.
So Fran's on hold,
Yes.
and what if the storm surface?
Hold until they have
Oh,
a.
you as well. Okay, good, thank you.
So I just need to look at his, what, okay, got it.
And, yeah, Angela, okay.
Because there's three for documents in this one.
All right, with that, is that it?
That's it for me.
Thank you, Lon. It's 10, I'm gonna call it 10:20, we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 10:30 and we'll continue on. Lots to talk about. Thank you. Hold your voices, hold your conversation. We're going live now. PIO check-in. Where's Megan? Oh, here you are. PIO check-in. You'll probably have stuff to share, I'm sure.
Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor, and really I've been supporting public health and responding to COVID. That's been our primary activities as of late.
You've probably written a lot of papers in college.
I did write a lot of papers in college.
Have you written more in the last month?
Probably.
Any questions or comments? Okay.
No, sir.
Anything at all?
No, I can't think of anything. Everything's smooth in terms of public messaging on COVID.
I don't know if I would call it smooth. We're struggling with getting direction at the state level to provide to the local level. And so it feels like it's a lot of having to create our own messaging. And so that's been the biggest struggle, is that we don't have answers or we're not getting guidance from the state level to help in messaging at the local level. So really we're asking our public to be patient with response from public health, because it's a lot of creating messaging around all the different questions that we're getting. We just don't have the guidance from the state level.
And my questions, number one is, with the suspension of a meeting today and potentiality of other meetings, and TCM is not engaged, then they're not having to be here to do all this stuff, or are they?
No, if we just wanted to do live streaming, either Brian or I or admin staff can take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all trained to do that.
And then, but with the suspension of that, does that give us any more capacity down the road? Because built in the contract, they would do this, but since they're not having to do that, does that give us any breathing room down the road for anything else to,
Yes.
hour-wise or time-wise or money-wise or something?
Yeah, so we get 1,700 hours from them. If they're not here doing this part of it, they're not charging that against us, so
Okay.
we'll have additional hours.
Okay. And then this question is pretty simple. What is the BoCC can do to support you and Brian, either with the COVID or drug activities? What can we do to help you out?
You guys are doing a great job supporting us. I don't have anything at the moment.
Good answer.
Way to put me on the spot.
Yeah, we didn't prep that. You didn't know it was coming.
No,
All right. Thank you, Megan.
thank you.
Legislative update.
Yeah, this is probably the one before last update, and this I'm going to go through this report for you, and I'm just going to briefly go through some of the bills that are within the governor's signature. House Bill 2230, that's related to properties owned by the federal recognized tribes. That was sent to the governors on March 12. Concerning the bill jumping, House Bill 2231 also went to the governor. House Bill 2311, amending the state greenhouse emissions limits, consistency with the most assessment of climate change science, to the governors on March 11. House Bill 2342, aligning the comprehensive plan updates with the shoreline management plan, also went to the governors.
Can you stop right there? Does that increase the time or decrease the time?
Increases the time, so it's a 10-year now.
Oh, so increases?
Yeah,
the
so
amount of time.
because the shoreline management plan, it was a 10-year period. The comprehensive plan update, it was every 4 years. That the comp plan amendments will be every 10 years. Through the process, they introduced an amendment. It was a check-in every 5 years on the comp plan, which really didn't do anything because then you have to do all over again. So everything was aligned to 10 years.
So just playing this out with Thurston County, because we've got a comp plan update that was way overdue, and then we got half of it, let's say, done, but now we still have half that's not done. So where does that, like, let's say in 2020, if we got the other half done, where does that put us on the 10-year timeline, do you know?
I think as soon as you approve the core plan amendments, then I think that's the
That's
10,
10
based on
years.
based on my understanding, but
I have more to go.
But we still have those other chapters.
that's my understanding, but give us some time as to see how this new law, if it's signed, applies. Yeah.
All right.
The House Bill 2567 concerning open courts also went to the governor. 2588 House Bill improving openness, accountability, and transparency to special purpose district also went to the governors, and you discussed the concern that you had on that. Although it was an amendment introduced which the bill passed, in which you as Board of County Commissioners could dissolve those districts, which that was probably a good tool.
Which one are you at?
I'm sorry, that is the House Bill
That's
2625.
ditch district consent, isn't it?
Local park funding?
Oh, no, the 2588, the one above.
The one above it, okay.
Oh, okay. And what is about local parks funding? Does that help us in some way?
That's dead.
It's dead, okay. Never mind.
So the Senate Bill 5457, the naming subcontractors with the prime contractor bidders as part of the public works contracts, about $1 million is going to the governors. House Bill 1590, allowing local sales tax for affordable housing to be imposed in a councilmanic authority. That is also went to the governor. And if this is signed into law, there is very prescriptive deadlines in which you, as a board, can take an action on that. So if this signs, I will bring this matter just to have that conversation.
We have a time deadline?
There's a time specified on the bill. The legislative body needs to take an action by a certain date.
Otherwise, we lose our ability.
I believe so. That is the last amendment that I saw. So, and again, if it passes, I will make sure that I'll bring those details to you just to make sure you're full aware. House Bill 2421 concerning the reimbursement of election costs. This is in the governor's office. Senate Bill 6147 concerning the replacement of a shoreline armoring. That is dead. Senate Bill 6212, that is concerning the authority of counties, cities, and towns, exceeded statutory property tax limitations, as also went to the governor. House Bill 2405, concerning commercial properties, assess clean energy and resilience, that's related to green building. That is also went to the governor. Senate Bill 6238, concerning local ballot measures, statements committee members voting, that is dead. Remember, that is it was a requirement for anybody who provides a pro and con statement of any particular measure, they have to live within the area in which that measure will be applicable. But that's dead. House Bill 2411, preventing suicide, is moving forward. So it is the 2414, family leave and medical leave. Senate Bill 6309, that is expanding access to nutritious food, also is on the governors. Senate Bill 6313, increasing opportunities for young voters, also moved to, is on the governor's signature. That at some point it was modified because this bill initially requested for all the colleges and universities to have as a voting center, which that would have created a lot of burden to all the auditors across the state. Now this new bill, as it passed both houses, only includes as an informational booth, so to young voters and colleges. House Bill 2501 is dead. House Bill 2673, the infill development, also passed and is going to the governor. House Bill 2722, the minimum recycled content requirements, also is on the governor's for signature. House Bill 2786, establishing an opioid epidemic task force council, is dead. And Senate Bill 6229, streamlining reporting of recipients of housing-related state funding. Also, and this bill is very helpful because it's going to help us not to provide those very lengthy reports every year when we have housing money. House Bill 2629, waiving utility connection charges for certain properties. That is dead. House Bill 2826, clarifying the authority of the Liquor and Cannabis Board to regulate marijuana and vapor products, is on the governor's desk. And last but not least, Senate Bill 5522, providing code cities and with the ability to annex unincorporated of pursuant a jointly approved interlocal agreement with the county, and that is on the governor's office. I'm particularly excited about seeing that bill moving forward, and hopefully there's an opportunity to participate on the signing signature of that bill.
You have your fingerprint on that one. Any comments?
I had a question on page 2. Third from the bottom. Concerning exemptions for infill development or state Environmental Policy Act. So that sounds like it's along the lines of my seatmates' desire to see bureaucracy stripped away for housing development that increases density. Is that the gist of that bill?
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out since they made that point earlier today, that they'd like to see us in that direction. It sounds like the state.
Yeah, the state, and it was
Big
it was widely supported. I think Representative Barkis was the one behind this.
What was the number again on that?
This is substitute House Bill 2673. Page 2,
Yeah,
third from the bottom.
2673. Is that what you said?
Did I say 2673? Yeah.
Can we expect, Marrero, I think I heard from a Tumwater official, I can't remember exactly, that there would be, with this passage of the annexation bill, that there will be some actions taken. I mean, they've got islands that within Tumwater, is that right? That there's some outstanding islands in Tumwater that could be addressed with more efficiently by this bill?
And, at least from my point of view, this bill is going to help. It's just, I think it creates the environment as to how we're going to have a conversation with the local jurisdictions as to how annexation should occur. And as you know, we have been working this bill for literally 2 years. And finally, we see the end result of that effort. So
I guess what I'm asking is there something that now, if this passes, is there something that you're going to predict is going to come forward that maybe couldn't have before, that we should expect?
Yeah, I believe the city of Lacey may have what we call the big annexation along Martin Way on the whole Winco. So this I think that will be a test of this new legislation. That's my perhaps. But in Tumwater, even without this bill, Tumwater has been very proactive in addressing the islands. And you have seen that approach Tumwater has taken in the past. Yeah. That's all I have for you on that.
All right. Public hearing decisions pending, briefing, nothing either. Okay. Takes us to commissioner items. The first one up is the BoCC meeting cancellation discussion.
Yeah.
And OPMA. 90 minutes for this topic alone. Good gravy.
So I'm going to go back to my suggestion yesterday that you consider canceling your board meetings for the next 4 weeks. In this case, will be for the next 3 weeks. 4 weeks, including today. And my recommendation was related to be responsive to the health emergency that all of us are facing. My intent was not to stop county government to continue on. And really is what I call this my words as to how we're going to be proactive in protecting the public. Also, during that conversation, the board decided to stop, cancel today's board meeting, which we have done. And also, you had some questions related to OPMA and how that can probably do. So we have for you an attachment that was provided by somewhat of a guidance by the State Attorney General's office related to OPMA and events. It's well thought out, and I think my recommendations probably goes along the lines as to how they see. So let me answer a couple of questions that you had. And one was whether you can act somewhat of a fire district. I'm using your words, where you can restrict the number of people who can come in and participate. So on page 4, question number 4 specifically said an agency cannot place conditions on attendance, period. And that is under RCW 42040. Also, what is interesting is what it states is the OPMA does not require for you to have public comments during your meetings, because they and that is in question number 5 of this page 4, and because you have other means and methods as to how the public can approach you, either written testimony, phone calls, anything, any other means they have to reach out to the commissioners. That's another question that I think it was an answer. Also, you said, could the governing body remotely meet via an exchange of text, emails, or a casual conversation based on this emergency? The question is no, you cannot do that, because the quorum needs to be effectively open to the public. Also, on this document, it speaks about other means as to how the public can participate on your public meetings. And one of the options is what we have here today, is YouTube. The public has access to you. The public sees your interactions, and you public also exercise the right to see any particular decisions that you made. And that is stated also in this long document. So
That's not conditioned on attendance, saying they can have to what?
So what it does is, for instance, here in this public meeting, the public has to come. If they choose to come, they can come. And we can probably have those chairs laid out that we have in here to provide that separation. If for any reason we see that there's too many members of the public, we can also have an overflow in 152. Then that's a great question. At least my understanding is, in this setting, the public has the right to come and sit here. And so you cannot close that door, because yeah. And Elizabeth is here to correct me everything what I'm saying.
I spoke last night with the mayor of Olympia, and their take on it was pretty much what you said, that a body can't prevent people from coming to a meeting. So she said they were having their meeting tonight with the declaration, but they're not letting the public into the council chambers. They're going to be allowing them to stand in the lobby and watch on television. So when I kind of parallel that with us, we would have the meeting, but have people in 152 on TV rather than being here. Is that what I'm hearing?
My interpretation is no, because you have this room and you cannot close the doors of this room.
And this says the OPMA doesn't recognize or use the word cancel, but they use the word reschedule. Adjourn and or reschedule. So let us educate us, please. Okay, all of it.
All of the above.
You've heard all these discussions, Elizabeth. Do we, don't we, can we, what's legal? Prevent disease, prevent spread.
Right, I think it's a really, well, I concur with everything Romero said so far, and it basically very well laid out in this document prepared by the AG's office. I think what's a little bit sticky is that attendance requirement. But as you've just described, and Romero's saying, you know, different ways to attend. And I think that's going to be even more sticky if we get, if the governor, well, the CDC, I think, is already or will be recommending less than 10 people in the space. And the governor may be doing further declarations, reducing gatherings of people. Right now it's at 50, it might be down to 0, I don't know. So in light of all those layers, I would be, you know, give you the range of interpretations and encourage you to take the most broadest interpretation of what attendance means. But what the AGO does say is you can all participate remotely, have a speakerphone in here, do not have staff in here, maybe one staff, and then open the doors to the public. Chances are that kind of setting is just going to naturally not entice the public to want to be here. So you'd still be within the confines of the black letter law and still within the confines of the public health recommendations. When it is quickly getting to that point. It already is. At And then Romero also touched on there are ways for the public to participate very creatively. You know, if you, example, let's take the remote meeting example. And depending on technology that's available to the county, you can have people send in questions, send in written questions ahead of time, call in questions, if you want to still have that public comment period. You don't generally have the public comment on items that you're taking action on. Public comment period, there are creative ways that you can incorporate that.
This is the Attorney General's opinion, and I bet we could find another Attorney General that give a different opinion. And what you are suggesting is that we err on the side of making it proper in light of the situation that this world or this county has not dealt with before, a pandemic that's going to potentially get worse before it gets better. And I have a different view than that. And I'm not challenging you. I'm just verbalizing a different view of one opinion versus another opinion. Still being transparent, we are the state seat of government, and there are so many different ways that people can address us. And I want to err on the side of caution, but I want to do it the legal way. There's the conundrum all the way across the board. Any commissioner want to? I don't know where to go from this point.
Well, I don't think this changes my position any on that we can do a weekly analysis of the next upcoming week. I'm just not going to be in favor of canceling for 4 weeks.
So yours is the duration, the length of time.
Pardon?
Yours is the duration.
Yes, I am not. I'm not opposed for health reasons of canceling a meeting for the public well-being.
So logistically, I'm not opposed to what you're saying, take it week by week, but like, when should that decision be made so that we can make appropriate notice and people can understand? Like, do we have to decide today for next Tuesday? Or how would that work if we went with Commissioner Edwards' approach and went week by week? How would we make that happen?
That will be my recommendation. Since we review the agendas a week in advance, obviously you already canceled today's meeting, then the question will be whether you have to cancel the 24th. I did not recommend for you to cancel on the day off.
Yeah, people will be really confused.
And also there is a lot of work associated in preparing the agendas and everything else. So logistically, if the board has the intent to cancel, why go through this process of building agendas and everything else and posting? And again, my suggestion is not for you to stop exercising your legislative authority in the decision-making process. Any items that requires your decision, any items that requires your vote, I will accommodate on a similar setting like this. And we will live stream every single aspect. And I can probably work with Megan just to make sure that we send a news release to what the next practices will be for the next 3 weeks if you choose to go that direction. It gives us the opportunity just for the public to understand how you're planning to exercise your legislative authority for the next 3-4 weeks. And at that point, whether we can ask and put in that on the news release, an email they can send as they watch the YouTube, any questions, I will make sure that you have those questions before you and answer on the spot. I think there is a lot of ways, but again, my suggestion is at least I feel compelled to be responsive to this healthcare emergency, and that is the only underlying reason as to why I'm bringing this for. I strongly suggest for you to consider this.
So before I forget, I'll get you, Gary. Before I forget, I don't understand. Well, now we've canceled next Wednesday or next Tuesday's meeting.
No,
But we don't
today.
use the word
Today.
cancel.
Today.
Today's meeting.
Oh, today's meeting. Okay. But we don't use the word cancel. We use adjourn. And how can you adjourn something you've never convened?
Go ahead and read this.
Adjourning is rescheduling.
Adjourning is rescheduling. Okay.
But is that a legal
I
definition?
heard that. That's-
I didn't know.
But you're not really rescheduling it, because you already had another meeting scheduled. So is it just a matter of terminology?
I think it's a matter of semantics. I can probably read number 2.
I hadn't had a chance to look at it.
So the number 2 is how does an agency reschedule or cancel a meeting under the OPMA? The OPMA does not use the word cancel, but that doesn't mean you can. Yeah.
Right, it is adjourn.
Some OPMA procedures appear to apply or may apply to rescheduled meetings. The OPMA does not provide a specific direction on how to cancel or reschedule a meeting due to a situation such as the COVID-19 event. However, there are times in which an agency governing body must cancel or reschedule a meeting. Here's some suggested guidelines.
Which gives us permission to do so.
This is broad.
Yeah.
I think number 2 addresses the OPMA doesn't really address the cancellation of meetings.
Right. Did you know adjournment, rescheduling?
Nope.
Okay, that's a new one. So that makes sense. That's why I said, how can you do it if you have to convene? Okay. Go ahead.
Well,
You
I'm
want to do
still
it week at a time?
bi-weekly.
Well, so then are you willing to then decide today about next Tuesday?
Boy, this thing is changing so fast that I would prefer that we make that decision based on recommendation from the health department and make it on Thursday or something, but closer to.
You heard the recommendation from both.
I know, but she wants us to go into this 4-week thing.
Yeah, so-
I just don't wanna go to the 4-week thing. I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah, okay, so.
I just think it's a mistake.
So we canceled today, we adjourned today, but we're doing the agenda piece tomorrow to vote on some of these things,
Some items to continue the government
right?
money.
So the issue right now is, and I'm okay with doing it weekly, do we decide by Wednesday then, or do we decide on Tuesday? I'm okay deciding on Tuesday for the following week. Gives that plenty of time to ratchet up or down, rather than
Now,
Wednesday or Thursday.
The bars and restaurants, one of you said it was for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not for like until further notice.
No, I guess
It's
it was
2
2
weeks.
weeks.
So-
15 days, I think, is what
So maybe-
they were talking about, incubation period or something like that.
Maybe you may consider, canceling the next 2 weeks. I mean,
Adjourning for 2 weeks unless.
my suggestion is just a suggestion.
If you wanna track the, you're always talking about don't go farther than we, and so like if the governor's basically said we're not gonna be gathering in that way, maybe we just go 2 weeks and then we revisit it.
I mean, why, I guess why can't we go along with maybe the governor's timeframe in there unless he extends it. I'm just trying to have a
Okay.
consistent.
Well, that's what Commissioner Messer is
So we
suggesting.
just said that, yeah, so it sounds like 2 weeks, we're okay with 2 weeks and then reassess
Well,
it.
you've done 1 week this week. And I'm okay with extending that next week.
Well, the governor's order was given yesterday.
Okay,
if you-
that's okay, but we'll see how it all plays out. And
Oh, I'm
So we're
just-
agreed to cancel next week. And then we'll have to talk about it next
Yes.
week.
And we'll discuss it next week.
we're gonna throw that into the 90-minute discussion.
Yeah, let's talk about homelessness
at the same time.
You.
Okay.
Whatever works.
And,
I just don't wanna put burdens on everybody scrambling around and the public not knowing whether to come or not.
yeah, and that's for me is just at least you give notice, you make a decision for next week. So the public who's listening understands what are you planning to do.
And we're still moving the government forward with agenda items tomorrow that we're gonna be voting on camera.
Yeah, I will be bringing those items. They're critical for you, and I will assure you that no delay will be done in terms of moving the government.
As transparent as we can.
Yeah.
And timely, okay.
And perception is a piece of this too, for me. You know, canceling another month out it just makes it sound so much worse than it has to be, you know, and we don't know yet. There's a lot of unknowns in this whole thing, so.
Gotcha.
We agreed,
We're done with that one?
we'll go.
But this was an interesting reading. to be
Well,
honest
yeah,
with you.
because I mean, I think I wanna read this myself, but can I ask the final question of Elizabeth? So if, let's say in 2 weeks, we decide we need to have a public engagement, you know, this is not working for us. What's the best setup of a meeting, you know, between having people downstairs or having just 5 chairs spread out in here or only taking written comment? I haven't read all the permutations. Like, what's a good way to structure it so we have a regular meeting with a little bit of public engagement, but we keep people safe and spread out?
It's hard to answer, but that's assuming that you all want to be present, physically present.
Yeah, let's say we all wanna be here.
And you want all your staff.
Yes.
Well, there was, I mean, so let's think about this, you know, being creative. Every item on your agenda is briefed to you, discussed, and all that stuff before it comes for formal action on a Tuesday meeting. So one thought in structuring a good meeting so that public can come is not have all the staff come up and do their, 2-minute summary of the motion. You eliminate 10 people right there, which opens up 10 spots or a couple spots for the other public. So that's one idea, is to think about how much staff do you really need in this room during the public meeting. So that opens up space for the public to actually attend. And then I think you would be wise to have people come in and have seats for them and then overflow upstairs or outside. But I mean, you can have the door open, but just have the seats further out or something.
Just a few seats up here.
Yeah, but I mean, generally speaking, you don't get that much you don't get that many people coming to the meeting unless there's a proclamation, so I would avoid proclamation statements. A lot of people that way.
Good one, yeah.
But if you're just having regular public meeting, another suggestion, team down in here is how many items do you really need to have on your agenda for this public meeting? And space those items out. And what that does too, the fewer number of items, the less public you're gonna draw. Because certain people are drawn by particular items. So you may want to postpone a discussion about a controversial comprehensive amendment till later, because that is going to draw people. But stay to the things that are urgent, need your attention, and you want to address. So there's just some strategy I need to keep you here and have public participation.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe just to follow up on number 5, it says, what about public comment? Could we put, like, if we get to that, hopefully we won't get there, but if we had to, put a restriction on that, 250 words or less or something? I'd hate to get a book that I had to read to respond to something. You know, that's all.
You can, for public comment?
Yeah, I mean, rather than get a whole manuscript on the public comment that we would need, you know, get 3 minutes.
Okay, I thought you meant, yeah, 3 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if we were to put it in writing, ask the public.
If I can't read it in 3 minutes, it's too long. No, but people can send us books, right?
Oh, yeah, they've sent us all kinds of
And we
things,
read
but sometimes we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't. I've got some pretty wild stuff sent to me that the public expected me to digest and comment on.
I think you can do whatever you want because
Okay,
it's not
I
an
just
AMA
wondered.
requirement.
Okay. Any further? Okay, so we've decided for this afternoon, and we've just decided for next Tuesday, and then we'll, next Tuesday, discuss the following week.
Yep, and we'll review the agenda items by then, and also I will accommodate a meeting for you to take action on the items that I highlighted to you today.
And excellent, you taught us about adjourning, means rescheduling, as well as a great recommendation about proclamations and awards. Don't do them, because it draws more people. We still do it like we are the National Recognition Day. Read it
Mail it out.
and mail it out, and that's that, but not draw more people in. That's a great idea. Great recommendation, thank you.
It's not my idea, it's their idea.
Your idea. Thank you, Elizabeth, I haven't read it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, the next one on the
Thank you, Elizabeth.
topic du jour is the agenda items, is the Proposition 1, April 28th special election. And I would like to read, if I may, hot off the press, an email came in from Mary Hall, the auditor. She says, I just got off a conference call with all county auditors and the Secretary of State, and Kim is drafting a letter to the governor, and all auditors have agreed to sign on, requesting the governor cancel the April elections statewide. This should go out this afternoon. And so she says when it does, she'll forward a copy. So that's going to be a recommendation to the governor to statewide, April elections, shut them down. Can't adjourn them.
From county auditors.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you. Do you want me to forward that to you?
Good.
Forward this to you?
That'd be great.
I'll do it right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, there you go. Thank you, Elizabeth. So do we need further discussion on the ballot? We did early on this morning on this, in this meeting.
I will have an item for you tomorrow.
Okay, anything more on Prop 1? Anything more? Yeah, any more discussion? We had that earlier on now.
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay, anything further? Okay, we're done with that one. Thank you.
Still in Robin. Don't type it. Keep doing this.
Formation of County Advisory Board for Arts, Culture, and Entertainment.
Yes, and this, I believe, an email that all of you received in your inbox, including myself. And this is an email from a citizen. His name is Kevin McManus, thank you. And he serves on the Olympia Arts Commission. And he's recommending the Board of County Commissioners to consider creating an advisory boards for arts, culture, and entertainment in the county. And his statement said there's artistic programs that operate in the area are incredibly important to the citizens of the county. I believe that is, if you survey the citizens, they will say unequivocally that the subjects are important enough to warrant an advisory board and budget of their own on the county level. So my first reaction to this request is that I believe I see stated in here, he serves on the Olympia Arts Commission. That's a very strong, that's a well-funded organization. And at least from what I'm sitting, I just didn't see the value of creating a county-wide advisory boards and committees without having a funding source as to how they can probably be implemented, if anything. So this is just my perspective, but obviously I wanted to have a conversation with you.
Do you want to address this first before Commissioner Edwards or myself, because it was addressed to you?
Yeah, I know, Kevin, and it's an idea that's interesting to me. When he says budget, I mean, do we have, to what extent do we budget for the different boards and commissions currently?
The only thing that we do is we support staff for the most part. And in some boards and commissions, depending on their role, the historic commission, you have a grant, right? And you go through every year in exercising how you want to give portions of that grant, I think $75,000. You just approve that. Any other boards and commissions are just advisory to the board, but not necessarily funding.
Well, although some of them do have budget.
Yeah, but not all of them, there's some.
They do?
They do.
Like area agency on aging, is that
No budget,
I'm your representative and I don't really.
No.
agricultural advisory committee?
no budget.
Okay,
But
so
some do. Board of Equalization, for an example, has a substantial budget.
And
I'm
that's,
just making the point that you could have it and it wouldn't necessarily be a
Right.
funding hit.
I guess for me is the value of creating advisory. I mean, I guess whether I'm way low in my understanding of this, which I can probably claim that at least from this low level of understanding, I just struggle to have I see a value.
I see the value, and I value the arts. And it seems to me that the majority of the arts and festivals, showings and such and cultural events are within the urban areas. And I'm not sure of how many we have in the county area. And so, I value it, and I value it, and I think it's a cool thing. I don't know what value that brings to the county or the county residents at this point, unless there's something that we do that I'm not aware of. We don't have county events, big ones that are that fit in that category.
The one that probably comes close to maybe the county fair.
I'm thinking the fair, yeah.
That has some elements of cultural value, obviously, but
Okay. Gary, go ahead.
Well, just the word budget in there is what scared me when I read the letter. I come from a family that appreciates art. I've got sisters and my mom, the whole family has been involved in art. So I'm not against that. I'm kind of in your position. I just don't know where the benefit is, and I know that we don't have much in the line of financial support that we can provide. I do think that there are certain activities, and there's been paintings and different things like that up at the county fair. How they put that together, sometimes it's quilting or something like that, and they put it all out on display. So I just wonder if there isn't a way that they could communicate with, and that would be for smaller or type activities, blowing glass or pottery or painting, whatever it would be. They could do that at the county fair. I don't see a big arts walk taking place anywhere in the county per se, because like you said, it's an urban activity more than anything else. So my concern was the budget, and gosh, we struggle with a lot of budget stuff. So.
And the state capitol has on the Capitol a lot of cultural events.
Yeah.
And I know Olympia has a commission, or advisory board, or arts commission. I'm going to presume Lacey has one, a formal one, because they put on a fair amount as well, not in the hub, that area, the park, Hunter Park. I'm not sure about Tumwater, but I don't see what value, budget somewhat for me, but it's more what value is it for the county to be involved or bring things to the county and support county efforts.
Let me propose this. Kevin's in a unique position because he's on the Holy Arts Commission, so let me ask him to flesh out his vision of where he thinks there's a gap.
That's fair.
That, you know, that he thinks this could serve a need that Holy Arts not.
That's a good
And
approach.
I'll look a little more into Holy Arts, because I don't know exactly what all they do, and then we can.
That's a good approach.
Where's the gap? Yeah,
Okay.
very good. And thank you, Kevin, for bringing that up. Shahida's Western Trail opening. Terry's gone.
No, I asked him to leave. It really is not much of, attaches an email from staff. We'll give you on the status of the opening of, the tunnel. I just happened to run to that this weekend, and it looks totally different, actually. Wow. Everything is
Is it done now?
pretty much. So they're contemplating that perhaps, everything is changing. But they're planning to finish the construction by the end of April of this year. So the question is whether the board would like to have somewhat of a soft opening ceremony or more elaborate ceremony related to that.
I like what's proposed down here, the consideration of May 25th, Memorial Weekend. Go ahead, Jerry.
But then that will be operated, already under operation though. Yeah.
Yes, I could.
Okay. Tony?
Well, one of the things I wanted to do was, when we do get to that point, is this was a project that Commissioner Kathy Wolf worked on quite a bit over the years. So I think
Be nice to invite her.
oh, yeah.
I think ever since the trestle burned down
Yeah,
and the railroad filled the hole,
yeah,
she was,
yeah.
On
So I just thought, I mean,
yeah.
it was something she was interested in. I think I talked to her several years ago, trying to get a background on why we hadn't got that fixed yet.
When would this happen?
That will be, the suggestion will be on the Friday of the Memorial Day weekend.
What time of the day?
That has not been, we can accommodate your
It's
schedule.
daylight till 9, so.
It's probably, I probably can't attend that day, but it sounds like a good day.
Yeah, I will not be able to attend either, so, but it will be a good day.
Okay.
I'm not locked into any date,
I'm not locked in either. I like the suggestion because it's far enough out. The weather will be a little more nicer.
hopefully.
And it gives plenty of people like Kathy Wolf, if Commissioner Wolf wanted to show up, she'd have plenty of time to do that if she wants to. And we're all outside of that, hopefully, outside of the window of this pandemic.
How about more to come later, as we get a little closer?
Yeah.
No, but I'll give staff an indication the board is interested
Yeah.
about that date, okay?
Want to finish it?
She's right in there before you.
That's all I have for you.
Nothing for public testimony?
No.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Testimony. When we talked about the election on the 28th, there was some mention of some legal stuff going on.
Yeah,
I heard something,
Title?
Ramiro had said that there was a challenge to the ballot title.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that.
I haven't seen
so
anything about it.
I'm just wondering, we don't need to do it now, but
well, I can give you all that information that you need if,
I was just curious what that was all about.
so the,
I didn't either.
when the ballot title is certified, it's certified by the prosecuting attorney representing the auditor's office, in this case Elizabeth. After that certification, there is a 10-day appeal period.
Oh, I get it.
And within the 10 days, anybody can appeal the ballot title, whether it's in context or in content of the ballot title. So there were two appeals to that. One filed by Mr. Pettit, and the other one was filed by Mr. Morgan, both on the same argument.
issues?
Same issues. It was more about the how the language was laid out on the title, and also making an argument whether the math was there, meaning the levy left for 2020 plus the 47 cents is the rounding of that, which ended up at $1.56. I think the argument was, from their perspective, as I understood, it was $1.55.
And as I understand it, the title was regarding building a courthouse rather than taxing the citizens.
Right, but I don't want to speak for Elizabeth. I have been in conversations with Elizabeth as to how that can be addressed if the board didn't want to rescind that option.
Well, it sounds like it doesn't need to be addressed now.
No, it doesn't. But at least from my point of view, talking with Elizabeth, I think we had a good argument to defend the ballot title.
Okay,
So-
is that your question?
Well, it kind of does, so then that just dies on the vine, so to speak?
And in fact,
Do you write, does Elizabeth write back and say, well,
when she met with Mr. Pettit after he made that decision, they already agree on signing. I can't remember the legal word to. It's not dismissed to.
rescind?
Agree not to file, not to pursue the suit. Yeah.
Okay,
But again, as you stated, you heard from Elizabeth that when and if the board decides to take another action to put in at a later date this ballot in front of the
it would
voters.
automatically renew that challenge?
No, it will be automatically the 10 days takes place after the ballot title is certified. So that suit will not carry over to any other ballot. The clock starts all over again.
They'll just have to change the date and refile the
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. So
Assuming we don't
if
change
it's on the,
time.
if it's,
Unless we change something.
if it's on the same terms, yeah, but they have to take the same actions.
Even if we change it.
Right, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
they're gonna challenge it no matter what.
Get what you need out of that?
Yeah, that's all, I was just wondering what the.
Okay. Commissioner items.
Yep.
I have one, I'm sure we each do, but I want to bring up the one that you were mentioning earlier. I think you were mentioning. Well, you wanted not only Jenica on the EDC and such,
Yeah,
but I had a conversation with the mayor of Olympia, Selby, and Cheryl was suggesting that there be somebody, a focal person, way high up that is going to coordinate what Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, Yelm is doing in regard to the economic piece of the COVID-19. Someone that can work as a regional focal point across all jurisdictions, and they can coordinate with U.S. Congressman Danny Heck, legislators, the cities, the EDC, and they would be able to track who's attacking this from what area. For example, Lacey wants to do some type of a grant program for, I think, businesses. Some are not interested, but we can't keep track of what all the cities are doing in response to this. But having someone that's not involved deeply within their own jurisdictions, like city managers or county manager, you are so busy. There would be someone that would meet with all of you folks, but they would be tracking in the different silos what the cities are doing, where's the gap, what money is available, state and fed-wise, and be that person. But that person wouldn't work potentially work for the Economic Development Council. They would be able to hit the deck running if we had the right person. They know the players and they know the issues. And so that is what the discussion was. And I thought that's where you were going earlier when you were talking about that issue. So don't know if it becomes a budgetary issue or not. I'm told right up front, the individual that wants to do this would probably do it for free. However, or some jurisdictions are willing to kick in money to the EDC to staff this person, and it wouldn't be forever. It wouldn't be it would get us through this crisis or emergency that we're in. So there you go. Yes, Gary.
The inability to have a meeting is a bit of a problem with drawing individuals in from the groups that you mentioned. I really do feel, though, that if we do something like this, the EDC, I think, has to be a crucial part. Groups like maybe the master builders, realtors, the Chamber of Commerce. I just, what I'm particularly looking for is eliminating roadblocks to the lengthy process of the permit activity. And I don't know what authority we have to make adjustments to that process based on our emergency declaration, but I'd like to have legal give us some advice if there wasn't some ability to expedite this whole, I'm gonna use, a citizen wants to build a house now. Boy, that takes them a year and a half to even get off first base now. The interest rate nationally, so for the banking industry is dropping substantially. I see a lot of citizens that might wanna take advantage of that. They might wanna make a refi on their house and add a bedroom. I can give you nightmare stories that staff and I have been working on about restrictions on, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's always you can't. I would like to see us be in a position that we're helping develop a can. I don't wanna hurt the environment and I don't wanna break the law, but we need to do something. We can't go on as business as usual and have so many restrictions in place if we're truly gonna try to help the economy get percolating as we either get over this or even during it to a degree. I mean, some folks, a builder that's a framer, for an example, or a cement person, they're outside, this isn't gonna bother them any. I'd like to be able to have them figure out a way, and maybe Jenica could call each one of these groups and get suggestions or and then come back with a recommendation to us about, well, if you shorten this period of time or alleviated this particular issue until the economy returns to where it was before this whole thing started.
So if we if we have this person in place, that is that focal person,
That's not Jenica?
no,
Oh, okay.
that would look at it, I'll say globally, in Thurston County, that he or she then would be able to say, come back to us and report, well, the EDC suggests or is doing this, Lacey is proposing this, Tumwater wants to relax perhaps, and this is just speculation,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying they've said this, relaxing BNO tax, which doesn't, raising the ceiling, it doesn't, that doesn't impact us.
No, we don't have any,
Utility issues, that individual come back and say, this is what the county, other jurisdictions with the county are doing and not doing. Here are some of the gaps, here's what the county potentially has the option of doing. That's how I envision that.
But why don't you think that would be within Jenica's role, what she's doing here for the county now?
Because the individual that would be overarching has the time, doesn't have a full-time job, has the time to work with all the jurisdictions. And Jenica doesn't, that's not her job description, I don't think, to work with all the cities. And the federal government and the local legislatures.
I think we're talking two different things. And what Commissioner Edwards stated is certainly something that we can explore as a county as to how we can facilitate that. But at least my understanding is, and we can check with our attorney, under the emergency declaration doesn't allow the board to bypass the state and federal law. That you can use the emergency declaration, the COVID-19, to bypass federal requirements and state requirements. But something that how we can probably see future development to take advantage, as you stated, is certainly something we can explore. But I think what the exercise, the Commissioner Hutchins stated, is how are we going to be recovering the existing businesses that have been affected by this crisis? It's really is because right now a lot of businesses are on the brinks of just going bankrupt, and that is really the I believe the effort that we need to concentrate on is, granted, in the future how we can have new businesses, but really what we need to concentrate is how are we going to be helping struggling local businesses right now with this crisis, because they can be going out of business in a week, in 2 weeks.
Most of these local businesses operate on about a month
Right.
margin.
And-
They're shut down for more than a month.
And I
Lose all of.
I just read an article about local businesses across the country. Their reserve is only 27 days as to how they can probably survive after. And some may not have that type of reserve. And this is just an average. So I believe what the focus, if I may, at this point is how maybe a two-step process is how we, as a region, are going to do whatever we can to help those local businesses to stay afloat and maybe have a long-term survival rate. So that's how I see the issues and the conversation perhaps that you're having right now. But let me give you a report as to what Jenica is doing. And I think it addresses some of your questions. She met with, last Friday, with the Economic Development Partners. And who attended that meeting was the Thurston Chamber, the Thurston EDC United Way, VCB, Olympia Downtown Alliance, the City of Olympia, Lacey, and Packmount, representatives from the Economic Development. They were trying collectively to gather data to better understand the local conditions of the businesses they're facing, current conditions. So the Thurston Chamber will be sending out a survey to all the businesses to start getting that data as they understand what their issues are, the gaps. The VCB is sending out also a survey to gauge the economic losses from events, sports, conferences, et cetera, overall as a result of this crisis. Jenica will continue to participate, as you heard from Kurt, on the economic development, on the emergency management from the county, and how information related to the economic injury worksheets that we received to share aside on the group is really trying to understand what the magnitude of the problem is at this point. Also, Shauna Stewart from the BCB will be connecting with Shelley, hopefully today, to start unifying a message to all the local businesses in terms of public health emergencies where we have right now, and how we can provide them at least a source of information. The group also discussed a single landing page to direct businesses for consistent and comprehensive resources. Thurston County EDC is a possibility as they develop a new web page and start developing resources, start highlighting how the businesses can at least start having an understanding. The president already sent a request to Congress of $800 billion aid package. They will include not just, say, the airline industry suffering, but also to how they can help local businesses. The question is whether it's going to be just a bridge loan. That creates an issue to local businesses. I attended the roundtable annual meeting last Thursday, and that was the concern is some of the local businesses, because they are struggling, but getting into more debt they will have to repay down the road may not be the option, because then there's an interest associated with that loan. So there's a lot of stuff we need to work on that. And also, speaking of the difficulty of having individuals come into a meeting, those future meetings will participate on a virtual basis. So everybody's going to use Skype and the other means and methods to continue to have those conversations and not be limited by any restrictions in terms of presence. Partners will continue to encourage businesses to turn in economic injury worksheets. And the economic injury worksheets is the process that we need to go through in emergency management. As we encounter on the Nisqually flooding, the personal loss versus the public loss, there is an option that calls the economic injury worksheet that all the businesses need to understand what that is, and they start providing data. In the event when FEMA comes in, they have access to that relief. Next steps, group has a standing meeting every week on a Friday. The next topics of discussion will be what is the tangible tools besides information and guidelines that we can provide to the businesses, because information is enough, but also hopefully we can provide some tools. Can we create a united campaign for messaging to the community to support local businesses? And that is essential. I have my little Twitter account that I post my runs, and I have been using a tag, support local businesses. If there's anything that all of us can do to send a message, right now the restaurants are struggling. And the restaurants are struggling because they have patrons to come and sit in. But let's go ahead and have an order to go, a pickup order, a delivery. I think all of us can participate to help our local businesses at least overcome this emergency. We will continue to keep an eye on grants and funding opportunities, and really is understanding the impacts at this point. But going back to the conversation that both of you had with Mayor Selby, there is a lot of effort, but at least from my point of view, it makes sense to have a focal point as to how that individual can pull all that information together and start concentrating solely at this point, perhaps phase one, as to how we're going to be addressing the needs of the local businesses.
Since you invoked Michael Cage's name, I'll do it again. I had a conversation with the director of the EDC a few days ago, over the weekend, and as he's collecting data from all the business people throughout the county as to the impacts, economic impacts to them, I asked if it would be meaningful to him to have the same thing from the county perspective, because of the significant loss of revenue and increase in expenditures in different areas, because he didn't plan on collecting that data, and we're collecting everything to the Post-it note should FEMA kick in. We have everything all tagged and documented, and he said it'd be of enormous impact or helpful to him as well to collect that data from the county government, the economic impact of this as well. So thank you for reframing that. Jen is just really quite engaged. I've been very proud of her. But again, this is the focal point of the person that would cross jurisdictionally, including the feds and the state legislators, to find money and where's the gaps and such. And that's the concept that I'm bringing forward if we want to support someone like that. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, you want to wait.
I might disagree with you on whether or not
And so many things.
we can shortcut the process. And I'm going to preface this with small businesses are the backbone of our economic engine in our community and nationally. They're the biggest employers if you lump them all together. So I'm going to use a couple of examples of what I'm referring to. Two things that we've been working on recently. One was a tree damaged deck in which a tree had hit a deck, damaged it. The party is waiting, has insurance. The insurance company is ready to pay for this. But the holdup is the regulatory process. Now, without getting into all the particulars, I don't know if it's a setback issue, if it's a critical areas, or
A pocket gopher, maybe?
it could be a pocket gopher where they're gonna put a ladder and they're gonna have to drive a truck in there. I don't know. I don't have all that information. Another one is down on Black Lake or Black River, where it's actually theoretically in a floodplain. The individual had to do a flood study to get that authorized, that, okay, you're up far enough out of the floodplain, whatever that is. But now the next roadblock, we'll get the next rock, or whatever, we need a blue rock now. And that next thing is, well, now you need a gopher study. Well, gophers don't live in floodplains, and everybody knows it, but yet he's held up because of that.
Would you please let me interrupt for just a moment?
Yeah.
Because we have about 20 minutes left, and the issue is the focal point person.
Yeah.
I'm with you when it comes to unclogging the pipe and getting services going and such. But this issue is about the focal person.
Yeah,
Regarding this.
I'm going there.
Okay.
And the whole thing stems on streamlining this process that is a nightmare for most people to negotiate, especially citizens that want to do something. Our builders know they have a nightmare across the hall. They're trying, but they have certain regulatory stuff they have to go through to get this citizen the permit he needs to do his thing. And when I refer to small business, by us doing our part to help small business be successful, it's a big step in the right direction towards fixing this whole problem that we're gonna be faced about economic development. And so that ties right in to what you wanna do. We don't wanna ignore all these small businesses that are faced with a bunch of unnecessary regulatory stuff. And I don't know if we want to put a dollar amount on the permit or what, but I believe there is a way that we can circumvent some of the bureaucratic BS that is put on these small contractors. So that's I'm going to put it as blunt as I can, as short as I can, without hurting our environment.
So to me, this is kind of analogous to housing crisis, where we have a shortage of housing and we're working on long-term strategies to incentivize more housing, but we also have a homeless crisis, and we have a homeless coordinator that, like Keely, that go into camps and finding shelter space and all that. So the stuff that you're talking about, to me, is a long-term strategy for trying to help the economy. But what I think Hutch is talking about is a emergency short-term crisis response to this crisis and how it's affecting the businesses we have. I also talked to the mayor of Olympia, who explained that she convinced me that, well, I was already talking about and trying to think about how we could put a committee together, but this is a more efficient way to do the same thing, to have a coordinator with our existing partners. So I like this idea, because we're all, having a.
Are we all going to contribute towards this position? Is that kind of
Well, that's the funding, that's a separate issue, it's a separate discussion, really.
But I mean, the person is not just going to be a county employee.
Won't be a county employee, no.
Okay.
Work for,
I'm with you.
with the EDC.
I don't know how we figure it out, but yeah, I
Okay, well, me too, and I just think that she had spoken to Michael Cade and David Schaffer at Chamber and stuff, and after those conversations, she felt like that there was still a gap in that kind of high level overall coordination and capacity of somebody to be able to do the job at hand. So I'm 100% in support of this.
Sounds good. So you got 3 thumbs up on that. I saw that.
Please
Thank
notice.
you.
Please notice. We ramped up the. Thank
Yep,
you.
Cleaning doorknobs and windows, everything.
That was not staged, by the way.
Not staged. I want to have been on camera.
On that topic, on doorknobs and such, copper and brass, both are kill viruses and germs. I mean, silver is a big piece of that. It's the best, but we can't hardly afford silver doorknobs.
Silver suit.
But copper is the next best thing. And then brass, a derivative of copper, is also beneficial. So don't go to stainless steel. Stainless steel is a bad.
Your styrofoam, okay.
Or plastic.
So you got 3 thumbs up on that issue. Do you want me to reach back out to Mayor, or do you want to reach out to to Jay right there in Olympia? What would the next step be?
No, I think the mayor reach out to each one of you. I think it will be proper for one of you to reach out, so that you had a conversation with the board, and we're supportive of the approach.
I told her I would contact her right after, right
Right.
sometime this afternoon about this?
I think
how it goes?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, good.
All right, well, you do
Good,
that.
thank you. Before I get into any of your topics, maybe bring up another one, because this is kind of a hot off the press as well. Chris Wells with the United Way, and I brought copies, I think, for everybody. I think. United Way is convening the Community Foundation of South Puget Sound and United Way are grouping together. No, I didn't bring one for everybody. Okay, regarding the COVID-19 response, United Way is, they're doing this together to gather funding from jurisdictions and donations, and that funding then would go towards the other nonprofits that are helping people. And so it's more of a coordinated response to assist individuals and families who are most severely affected or impacted by this. And so it's two large nonprofits that are going to be looking for this community response to help the community. So for example, one jurisdiction may kick in $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, another may kick in $50,000. And what they are looking for is a county commitment, or I shouldn't say commitment, they're looking for any kind of help the county would give them financially to help seed, well, I do have an extra one, that would help seed this the two nonprofits coming together to help the community. So do we have the money? Where do we get the money? Is it emergency response money? Is it $200,000 that's on pause? Is it whatever? That's the question. Do we want to help support these two nonprofits that spend the money out, spit it out to the other nonprofits that are directly involved in the community? And how much, where do we come from? Where does the money come from?
I guess my initial feeling on this is that, you know, we should help. But then comes the question, what is that help? You know, what's that going to entail? Just a little more detail. And the amount, I know that the Carpenter Road thing is kind of on hold, so there was money set aside for that. The election thing is on hold, money there. So we probably do have access to some money. I just want to make sure that we just don't throw money at a problem, because oftentimes that's the first thing government does is throw money at a problem, and it really doesn't come up with a solution. So I'd want to know a little more about the solution before we get into the financial.
Well, I don't know if the letter spells that out or not, exactly what they're going to do with it.
Maybe
Enough to answer your question, because I don't know if this is going to answer your question or not. But the money is going to go right to the people that are impacted by this.
Well, is that the restaurant owner is gonna get a bonus for closing up for 2 weeks, or where is it gonna fit? Or are we gonna build, I don't know, somebody's building homeless shelters out of transportation containers or something down in Olympia. So I just need to know a little more about it before I just signed off on it.
It will help enable us to move quickly and strategically to serve the people who are most vulnerable. I don't think this is a business type assistance. I think this is for people who have lost jobs, who are on the verge of whatever their economic issue is.
But aren't we gonna have unemployment and some aid coming from the federal folks even to address some of this stuff? I keep hearing from
But people,
the political
people
types.
need this help now. They don't need to wait for the state. or
Well,
government to
I don't know the
fund it.
answer to that, but I keep hearing that, oh, you're not gonna, actually a presidential debate recently, one of the candidates was saying, or maybe both of them were saying that nobody is gonna go broke over this, we're gonna help you. So,
Of course, they're campaigning.
well, I don't know about that, but I didn't take it that way. I think their heart's in the right spot, but I don't wanna just pump money into an area that I don't know where it's going. That's,
Questions, comments?
I just want to make sure I know that whatever money we can pump into anything is finite.
Yeah.
And I wanna make sure that I know I don't wanna just give money the first thing that comes along, and then it turns out the third thing that comes along is what I
It's a better
really wanted
deal,
to fund.
right.
One of my commissioner items was to talk about the Meals on Wheels program for seniors. And, you know, I know the county has some support of that. Do we, you know, this is just coming, no one's asking about this, just random thoughts that I had of, you know, we're asking the highest risk group not to, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of seniors out there that are afraid to go to the grocery store. And so I'm afraid of people going hungry and not being able to get food to eat. You know, so that may be where I want to target, just hypothetically, that may be where I want to put the limited county resources rather than this. I don't know yet, because we haven't had those discussions. We have this, you know, this grant money from the shelter, this $1 million, I don't know where that's gonna go and what gaps that's gonna fill in the community. So I'm definitely amenable to this, I'm just not ready to pull any triggers until we get the full range of what the county's needs are and gaps, and I can make an assessment of the highest priority.
I second that.
The third paragraph down says this response will assist individuals and families who are most severely affected, such as hourly wage earners, those without health insurance or access to sick days, households with children, seniors, people with disabilities, and other vulnerable groups. They're working with a network of local community leaders to advise us on gaps in services where we can provide the most support. And Chris did indicate on the conversation last evening that our local Thurston County Food Bank is going to be very much in dire straits in short order with the food there, the number of people going down for food. And this is another group they want to help because they're going to fund with this money, not only direct people, but the nonprofits that deliver access or deliver services to people right now, almost in real time. So would a presentation by Chris or someone that would be able to answer all these questions, she has more answers in her head than I do. So do we want to have her come in and present to us? Or email?
I mean, the concept I'm in favor of. I don't know, but is it going to be the third item that we get presented that is the better way to go?
Or is she presenting the third item as well?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I'm amenable to that.
Okay. Well, I'll reach out to Chris and see if we can bring her in. Is that the way?
No, that's fine. I haven't got the chance to read this.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So
I just printed it this morning.
So I couldn't, but,
This is fresh
but
as of last night.
but I tend to lean to what Commissioner Mensah stated, is we have finite resources and the need right now is big and it's going to get bigger every day. And having a plan as to how the county can strategically put unlimited resources to make the best bang for our buck, if that is the right word, that is something that perhaps we need to exercise. Because I know Chris, if I hear her, you know, I buy.
You can't resist.
I can buy that because it's not about what she's convincing, because she feels the obligation that she has to serve the community, and nobody can argue against that. But others may have the same argument and the same compelling argument behind
And we
their
have
needs.
very limited resources.
So that's just my 2 cents worth related to this item.
Okay. Who would I have her contact then about setting up time to come in?
Yeah, me or Amy, we can
Okay,
schedule that. As long as she doesn't bring a lot of people,
I'll tell her,
because
come
we have to
along.
make sure we
There's no plus
control
one.
this.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I have for my commission items. You've been quiet for a bit. Do you want?
I want to talk about seniors, and I'm going to reach out to senior services and see what they might need or feel like that we could help.
Wonderful, good.
Did they make a new selection of a manager down there yet?
I'm not sure. I was at the
Yeah.
meeting and I gave my comments, but I haven't heard an announcement. Have you?
You heard that?
We don't think so.
Uh, my concern here because I know we're running out of time, is are we gonna talk about it, or are we gonna look into streamlining something over here? I'm talking about things like tabletop reviews that could be done that have a lot of common sense. I'd like to have legal give us a review of what are we gonna be allowed to do as far as streamlining the process. Or if we aren't allowed to do something because the law doesn't allow it, what could we do with our existing staff within the boundaries that are in place? Are we allowed to take a look at this and say, well, gosh, this guy's only talking about backing a vehicle up here across, 40 feet of lawn to fix this without having a inspection or something. I mean, there's some common sense things that can come into play, and I would like to make sure that we're exploring everything we can do, because every job that we create is a plus towards solving this economic crisis that we're in, along with our health crisis. So,
Yeah, I agree with, as long as it's not doesn't hamper or damage our environment.
yeah, I'm with you.
Open up what we can to get things moving, get people doing what they want to do when they can do it, especially with the interest rates low and
Right.
And generate jobs and income. Do you have any?
I will engage Josh because he needs to be part of this conversation.
But I need to hear something back from Elizabeth as well, as far as the legalities of.
Well,
If he finds out, he has some suggestions, he can.
but it will be difficult for me to ask Elizabeth to look into something that I don't know what it is.
Well, that's true, but what leeway that, an emergency declaration must grant something besides rhetoric. I want to do something for these folks.
So in a previous emergency declaration, this conversation already occurred. The board doesn't have the latitude to forego state and federal laws. And the inspections that we go through, for instance, on the pocket golfers, that is the means and methods as to how we are responding to federal law requirements. Under emergency declaration, I believe that you don't have the authority to say, just forget this and go for it.
I'm not willing to accept
No,
that.
but
I want to
you don't
consider
have, you don't have to. I mean, I'm just giving you my perspective.
Because what I really want to say is if we had a hurricane, for an example, or a tornado, wouldn't we make exemptions to get people back in their house? And I'm talking about little things here, that we're not even talking about a big permitting process. These are little things that could be reviewed at the tabletop that they refer to over there as a tabletop review.
Is the pocket gopher immune to COVID-19? Just wondering.
I do have a question from yesterday's briefing. So there was talk about the possibility of us having to close our.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as last item.
Let's do it, yeah.
Well, my specific question was about, Josh was talking about a Dropbox. So this is, you're making me think about, and I had somebody reach out to me for the project and they're like, can there be like at least a Dropbox system? And I was happy to say, yes, our CPED director has already outlined that. But then I started thinking, but how does people use Dropbox system if our whole lobby is closed? Like, how would that work?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I asked each department in the office to give me a plan by tomorrow afternoon to understand what we might be in the position to consider closing non-essential services.
I'm not even close to closing the courthouse myself, but that's just my position.
What else would you have?
But City of Olympia is closed, City of Lacey's closed.
Yep.
And the
It's
governor
not,
could tell us we have to.
If the governor says we have to, I guess.
Whatcom County has closed, and again, non-essential services, and they closed from public areas for the public.
I'm
When you say the courthouse, you mean the entire complex?
the complex.
Okay.
That's right.
But that would interfere with having people come in and drop off revised building plans,
Yeah.
right? So we'd have to figure that out somehow, if that came to be required.
Besides email.
So that's what I sent an email just to follow up they need to send me a plan as to how we could potentially implement a non-essential function shutdown, non-essential. And hopefully, yeah.
But, you know, that's in the eye of the beholder, you might say, what's not essential. You tell some guy that he can't pour his footing because we're closed up for 2 weeks. I think that is asinine. I don't wanna go there.
So when you get your plans, you're gonna come back to us,
Thursday.
okay, Thursday with what everybody's suggesting, how they can respond, okay.
Yeah.
Then we can chew it up then.
Are we meeting at 9 on Thursday? Is that-
I still have to schedule that, yeah.
And before we leave, I have a conference call this afternoon. It's the first of its kind with the BHA, with Avalos and Friedman and DCRs about
I was gonna call into that too, should I not? You got the,
that if we're on a conference call together, that's a quorum? Not deciding.
No,
it's chatting.
is it a webinar or what is it?
oh, you explain what.
It's kind of a conference call between the executive director of, the CEO of the BHA and the OHRS and their DCRs.
You think the public knows what we're talking about?
When?
Crisis response folks, just an open discussion about how the crisis response people are going to respond throughout the county during this event, this emergency, and what law enforcement needs and what their needs are, and
So it's just gathering information?
just gathering
Yeah,
information.
that would be appropriate for you to participate.
Okay.
Since
I can just
you're,
listen in and not just.
Right.
We're not deciding anything, it's just a conversation.
yeah, but gathering data is always good, I believe.
Right, I just want to be sure there's not a violation.
I don't think so. Is it, but I think it will be worth having it on the master calendar.
Okay. Kelly sent me the link and all that this morning. Thomasina, do you have it? I do. You can get it? Okay, good. Good, that's at 3 o'clock. Or 1,500 hours. Anything else for the good of the order? Going around the room?
Well, I think we can go on for quite a while if you want.
I know you did. Romero, anything?
Yes, sir.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned. That doesn't mean reschedule, that means we're done right now. Thank you.